Oh, hey there, Internet. Welcome back to the GCN Podcast. I know it's been a while since we've done this, but hey, why the hell not? I decided to go ahead and reanimate it for this one instance and deliver it to you all for your audio and visual consumption. I am, of course, your host, Kid Atari, the voice of Gaming Sins, and I'm joined by my partner in crime, the Sage. Go ahead and introduce yourself to the audience, my friend.
Why would I introduce myself when you already introduced me? Oh, hello, Internet.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll take that L. I'll go ahead and take that L. I have no shame.
My name's The Sage. I am a content creator and a organizer at various conventions throughout Arizona, and most of my time I talk about tabletop and video gaming.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just so good to have my partner in crime on this podcast for you all. And we have a lot of topics to cover today, so let's just go ahead and get right into it. I'm going to start off with a very important topic that I can relate to, that I take kind of personally. It's the Angry Joe debacle that happened a few weeks ago. So as you guys know, Angry Joe Vargas from the Angry Joe Show, announced that he would take a 2-month vacation from his Angry Reviews, the video format that has pretty much given him critical acclaim across the internet. A lot of the biggest reason why a lot of people subscribe to him. And needless to say, this was met with enormous backlash from his fans, to the point where they started leaving negative comments on his videos and threatening to unsub. And this led to Joe disabling comments and likes on his videos. Something that he once said on Twitter that he would never do. And needless to say, it has caused a lot of his most loyal fans to abandon him. This is quite a controversial topic. You know, I sent this to you a couple nights ago, and quite crazy, isn't it?
So, when you sent this to me, it was right after I had actually completed my work for a convention. Mm-hmm. So I had been living under a rock for the better part of a month by the time I started reading this. And so, doing a little bit of homework, and along with what you had sent me, the thing that I think is most telling is the idea that, first off, he does this for his living. This is his primary job. And it has been for 9 years, according to the video where he tries to explain the reasoning behind leaving the show for those couple of months, or at least the review portion of that. Yeah. And part of it is the fact that he tries to bring out the numbers. And I'm my background is in biochemistry, so I am a numbers person. I love numbers.
Yeah,
probably a little bit too much. And he mentions, look, if you look at this from year to year, there's actually an entire thread on Reddit for Angry Joe Show. His review numbers have not changed that much. In fact, in the years that they have gone down prior to 2015, there had been no negative backlash because for some reason or another, he just, got busy with whatever is going on behind the scenes. He's helping other people with projects. He's doing more collaborations,
which is fine.
Etc.
It's fun.
Well, that's part of the business. I mean, heck, we're literally doing a collab podcast right now.
Exactly. There's no problem with wanting to expanding your content.
The thing that I think is really where I think he's going right is this is his bread and butter. He acknowledges this. He acknowledges that, if he was just in it to make money, kind of get the biggest bang for his buck, etc., he would probably stick to angry reviews because, yes, while there is a ton of work involved in each of them, that is also what gets him the most views. Where, as you pointed out, his subscriber base really comes from. That's what made his show different from other content creators on the internet and kind of, where he made his home.
Mm-hmm.
And every channel, to some degree or another, is going to have some sort of experimentation along the line. And over the years, he's tried different things. He's still trying different things to try and bring in, not just to satisfy his audience that, wants more content than just the angry reviews, but even look at different audiences or bringing more people into the fold that don't want to just listen to him shout and rant for 10, 20, 30 plus minutes.
Yeah.
The part where I feel his argument falls apart, and the thing that
please tell me what it was.
The thing that frustrates me as a person who, again, like I subscribe to him. I don't always watch the reviews just because, again, I don't have much time to consume stuff. Heck, watching the gaming sins videos sometimes I'm a little late about. But the thing that really frustrated me was the ways in which he is trying to control the narrative and deal with the negative spin. Because the thing is ultimately, we're both content creators. We both know one of the first rules is we are artists. We are our own worst critic. We put out stuff sometimes, and it's our B+ work. It is not our A game, and we know it. And our audience catches us at it and says, like, you could have done better with that. You've done better.
Yeah,
like,
you've done better.
Just you could have. You've done better. This one wasn't one of your best, and we come out in front, and usually we're like, yeah, we know, but thank you for the criticism. And if people are willing to give us like genuine, honest critique, again, it's because part of them needs to get it off their chest, and some people are just cynical. But there's a lot
which I appreciate a lot more.
Well, and the thing is me too, because if I can make a friend of an enemy, boy, will I. But there are just some people that have seen our work or followed us, and it's like, hey, we want you to succeed, and we feel that, something's missing, something's off, something's not right, and we need to take both of those opinions, both our naysayers and our supporters who feel that we've gone down a dark path, and turn it around and say, okay, I'm hearing a lot of these same things. I feel like a change needs to be made for the betterment of my company, for the betterment of my program, for the betterment of my audience. And then we make those changes. We figure out some way to do it. We commit the resources to whatever research or whatever people change, anything like that we need to do, and then we do it.
Yeah.
With Joe, I think just listening to him in the video where he tries to explain himself. And I hope, by the way, you provide a link to this one, because I think it's eye-opening for a lot of people that
they need to hear it.
That don't.
Assuming, of course, he doesn't take it off the internet by the time we upload this.
Yeah, that would be frustrating. But I think the biggest thing about that video is if you listen. I mean, you can literally just put YouTube on in the background, go make yourself some dinner or something, and just listen to the guy. And you can hear just the tiredness in his voice. The fact that for him, this has been 9 years. And again, like, there are probably times where he's snuck in a vacation here or there. A few days here just to kind of recharge the batteries, or, like a working retreat sort of deal. We all kind of get away with that. Even with me, who now, deals with a 9-to-5 and then works 6 conventions a year, like, even I manage to find my 1 or 2 days away every once in a while. But that's a big difference between that and the 10 years, or, the 9 years of the man hasn't had a real vacation. He realizes, hey, if anything, it would be smart for him to just say, I'm only going to do my bread and butter. Like, I'm going to line up my couple of angry reviews. I'm going to, put them on a schedule. I'll make sure somebody else checks in on them so nothing technological happens, because we don't want to miss an upload. And God knows how many times something like that has happened.
Yeah, thanks a lot, YouTube, with your shitty subscription.
Yeah, the stupid sub box. Hit the little bell nonsense.
Like,
and then, go on vacation. Like, that would be the really smart thing. If he was looking at this from just a pragmatic business standpoint, most bang for his buck, because he knows he's not going to put out as many videos, that would be the safe thing to do. What he's doing instead, I don't agree with, because I did see one of the comments, and I think the strongest criticism that I would personally feel as a consumer of his content
Right.
is by the time he posted this video, he had already been 2 months without an angry rant, and he's now saying that he's going to go another 2 months. So I can understand the people that only watch for angry rants being like, look, that's half of the year by the time he comes back. Half of the year has not had a single angry review. And that person is the one that we feel for. The one that feels like they're getting screwed out of this. But I think he's playing with fire, not just in terms of his fan base, but also because they don't get as many views and aren't regarded as highly. And on top of that, I get the feeling that if he managed to keep his commitment on the comments and likes continuing to be enabled, I would bet money that would be the content where you start to see the dislike bar being swung in the overly negative direction, because people are not voting against the content, but they're voting against the content because it's not the angry reviews.
Yeah. It's quite a predicament that we're in, and I completely understand where a lot of his viewers are coming from. He did make a video a couple years ago, I believe, where he said he was going to expand the Angry Review show, or the Angry Joe show. Now, depending on who you are, you might have taken that out of context. Expand on what? Like, are you going to do more angry reviews? Are you going to be doing more movie reviews or interviews and let's plays and all that stuff? So I think that's what Joe meant when he said he was going to be expanding. But a lot of people who watched it were like, okay, are you going to expand more with the angry reviews and whatnot? Here's the thing, though. He made that video. And then he made a video, I think it was last December or whatever, that he was going to make a schedule on, I'm going to be putting out 2 angry reviews a month.
Oh my God.
2 angry reviews a month. And then didn't really stick to that schedule. And from what I'm seeing in the comments, a lot of viewers who have been watching for the past couple of years have seen sort of a diminishing in quality. I mean, I personally haven't seen that too much in the reviews. I think he still puts in the same level of quality that he did like 5 years ago or whatever, but maybe I'm just like not paying attention too much. Or maybe they're seeing something that I'm not. But
well, and I mean, the opposite could also be true. It's the market 5 years ago is not the same market as today.
That's true.
Like
the YouTube algorithm.
The people that have been watching his stuff for years. This goes back to discussion we had off mic with the idea of nostalgia.
Mm-hmm.
Like they may look at that more favorably because like that was their introduction to Angry Joe. Like that's the way that they picture him in his mind. And the thing is as content creators, one of the things that we never really get to address much on mic is the idea that we have to grow. I mean, you have the Gaming Sins videos, and I mean, I'm sure you look at some of your prior stuff, and you look back at them and say, there are certain techniques that I've learned between now and then that I wish I had known then.
Absolutely.
When
it's a very subtle growth too, and I will go ahead and admit that wholeheartedly. Like I'll go back and watch a video of mine that I did back in 2013, 2014. I'm like, yeah, I probably could have done that video a lot better now, knowing the knowledge that I know.
And that's what
I've obtained.
Well, and I think that's the thing is, I feel in certain ways, again, being a consumer of this content, that Joe has stagnated. Joe has not had that same degree of growth not because he hasn't grown, but because the emphasis of his growth, the places that he has grown into, have been all of these smaller projects that have, again, like they haven't had the same return as his angry reviews, but they have allowed him to expand in other ways, to look into different markets, to try things that may or may not have succeeded. But when you look at his bread and butter, his angry reviews, they feel they don't have that same growth to them. They feel very much the
Been there, done that.
The I am shouting into the microphone for 20 to 30 minutes. And yes, I mean obviously he has the costumes, the props, the presentation. Like his budget has gone more into it, and you can definitely see like the physical elements of comedy have improved because he's had better access to better cameras, better microphones, etc. Like you can see improvement there, but in terms of the act, in terms of the
passion,
the show, in terms of the presentation, I do feel that I can understand a lot of people that have that criticism of it feels like he's phoning it in because that's not where he's grown. And I think that's legitimate. I think that's an honest criticism from his fans, especially, again, like those longtime fans that helped him get where he is today.
Exactly. The thing, it's crazy. Like, you made a video saying that you were going to expand on your reviews. You said that you weren't going to disable comments. You said you weren't going to disable ratings. You didn't keep to the promise. And then you mock the fans who call you out on legit criticism and calling them haters? Haters! What is this, fucking high school? No. They're loyal fans. They're loyal fans. They want you to do better. They want you to do better. And the only way for them to voice that is to tell you, I don't think your quality is up to par from what you've done. But you view that as, oh, they're just trying to shut down my channel. They're trying to prevent me from making this other content. But that's not why they subscribe to you, and they're trying to tell you that.
Well, and ultimately, I mean, if the exodus is going to happen, it's going to be because of a lot of these decisions. And I mean, as a person who has owned his own business and has worked with one that he's very happy with right now, I can tell you that there are times where you say something or you make a solid commitment to something. Markiplier actually has a great video about this, about the idea of not even necessarily over-promising, but just, it's a problem that I term there's 168 hours in the week. And really it's no matter how much you want to do, no matter how much you want to create and grow and work on all of these things in your home life, in your personal life, in your business, in content creation, you're always going to eventually run into this problem of there's 168 hours in the week. There's nothing that you or I or Joe or anyone else can do to change this very basic fact. So I have no problem with Joe saying, like going back to the scheduled video, and one of the things he says in the video that you sent me was, the scheduled video was one of the worst mistakes I ever made.
Yeah.
I agree. I actually agree with that statement wholeheartedly, because the minute that you set that expectation to your fans, and again, these are fans that not just with your channel, but with every channel, because YouTube has been pushing so hard to become like that legitimate, media consumption source to compete against TV, on demand, anything like that. It's built itself to raising standards. So our standards from now are not the same as they were in 2013, 14. As consumers and as content creators, we have to raise that bar, period. I honestly think that what he really should have done, and of course hindsight is 20/20.
That's right.
Because Total Biscuit did something very similar to this, and there were a lot of people that, had some mad respect for him. Was he basically said, look, I'm going through, in this case it was a very serious, legitimate medical scare, but it's, I'm going to have to go through some things, and content's going to slow down on the channel. It may even stop on the channel for a time. But understand that I am a content creator, and when I am able to do so, I'll be back. And I will continue to do that and work on collaborations with friends and work with co-optional and all of the other projects that I'm currently involved in.
Mhm.
And, you know, the way that their fan bases differ are almost indescribable, but the reaction, the very human reaction of there is this person that is delivering us free content. You know,
It is. No matter how you want to spin it, it is
yeah.
still free.
You know, obviously YouTube makes its money through ads, and now YouTube Red, and it, you know, it gets its slice of the pie. The content creators get theirs, but the idea is that for the consumer, with the exception of paying a little bit of their time,
And quite frankly, that's all I really ask for whenever I put my videos out.
Yeah, I mean, you know, and that's the thing is, you know, especially.
I'm glad you take the time out of your day to watch my stupid videos. Because let's be honest, like, I'll be the first one to admit, that nitpicky as it is, they are silly. They are some silly ass videos. Nobody in their right mind would sit there, play a video game, and then nitpick every single little detail that there is,
I mean,
except someone cynical asshole like myself.
Well, and the thing is there's a big difference between like, hey, you know, I'm playing this terrible game and talking with your friends, and actually, you know, putting together the production that you do, where it's actually, you know, focused around this very idea and having to be critical. Because let's face it, no one would watch your videos if you pointed out, say, the top 20. You know, like that.
Yeah, we have enough of those channels on YouTube.
Yeah, so,
but they're the ones that get the views.
Well, and they get they serve a different kind of audience. Heck, there probably is some overlap between the ones that, you know, do the big old countdown, and it's like, you know, top 10. I actually saw one the other day. Like, it was like top 7 skins in Overwatch that give you an advantage, and top 10 or 7 skins in Overwatch that give you a disadvantage. I can't remember the channel name, otherwise I would completely shamelessly plug it.
Probably one of those Watch Mojo or something like that. What culture?
It was in that style, though. But the thing that was really cool about that is, you know, you get to actually see, hey, this is the skin. You know, you get the visual of the Nutcracker skin for
for Zen.
For Zen was actually the one that was in both videos, and he acknowledges, like, you saw this in the other video, and you should go see the reason why it's an advantage. But here's the reason why it's a disadvantage. So it's very, you know, it's very self-aware.
I present to you my nuts. Have them in your face.
Yep.
Shoving my nuts in your face. Literally.
But the thing is those are very much you see the gameplay in action. You see, you know, what he's talking about as far as, oh, hey, the hitbox is bigger, or, you know, there are certain visual cues that you otherwise would not normally see with a character, so on and so forth. Whereas yours, again, is very much a, you know, quick quip as you see on visual what you're talking about, or a scene that reminds you of the particular point that you're making. And they're just two different styles. They have a completely different flow to them. And that's cool. The nice thing about YouTube is both of these things exist, and one person can consume one person can consume the other. Someone like me, who is bored out of their skull because I'm busy working at something at 3 a.m., can listen to both and just laugh hysterically. And I really think, you know, going back to the point of the way that you treat your audience.
Yeah, there's a lot to do.
TV had kind of that, Total Biscuit had that heart-to-heart of, there is something very serious. I need time. Please understand. And understand this because I do respect you as an audience, and I think you have a right to know what's going on with this channel and what the future of it could be. You know, at the time, who knows what was going to happen if things took a turn for the worse. You know, but it's something that he had to take care of at that point in his life. I think if Angry Joe had done something similar, because the stakes are not as high. It's just, he's been working as close to nonstop as a person can for 9 years, and the guy's experiencing some burnout. If he had come before his fans and been like, hey, I need you to know that, like, for 2 months, not even just the Angry Joe reviews, but even just his other work, you know, be straight with your audience. Tell them, hey, I have some stuff that's prepared. We're going to go ahead and show it on X schedule. I know, and address the schedule thing too. Just like him saying that was his biggest mistake gives me like some degree of mad props because we're not perfect. We're human beings. Accept that you made a mistake and move on. Ask for forgiveness because realistically, a lot of people will probably give it. A lot of us are assholes. Let's face it. And you kind of have to be a certain degree to get on the internet and be successful. But people that are watching, people that you're basically inviting them to be a part of your daily life because you're a part of theirs. They watch your content and rewatch your content daily, weekly, whatever their ritual is. Those are the people that it's like sitting down and having a discussion like we are right now. It's the hey man, something's going on in life.
I hope you can understand.
I don't know where that's going, but I'm taking a sabbatical or I'm taking 2 months because there's a lot of cool stuff I want to do, but really I just need to recharge. I need to sleep for a week. I need to go on that road trip that I've been wanting to do. I need to go crash a convention and not as a guest, just as a regular person, who bought their badge in and just be amongst the people. I think if he had gone with an approach like that, instead of, as you pointed out, talking down to his audience, calling us haters and the fact that we just can't handle it because our expectations are too high. That last point I may agree with if he had been a little more humble about the other things. But the fact that he basically came out in his Angry Joe style, with
corporate commander style, actually.
Well, and that's the thing.
Pretty close to that, sort of.
But again, like writing that line instead of talking about the. And again, if he talks corporate commander style, there are times where, I say this being a boss of, dozens of people, there are times where you have to look at a situation and say, you know what, this is not going to work. You have to be a big enough man or woman to look at yourself and say, we don't have all the tools we need. People, technology, what have you. And you need to be able to look at your audience and say, I'm sorry, we just can't do that. If he had done that, you would have still had the backlash because, let's face it, a lot of people who watch Angry Joe probably are angry people. There's probably a certain kinship when they watch it. But a lot of the people that are on the fence, a lot of the casual watchers like me, we would have been like, we've been there. Or, some of us are, in our 30s or 40s and we work some sort of suck-ass job and you're the content that we listen to so we don't have to blow off steam on somebody. And it's just, hey, all right, for the next few months, I guess I'm going to be watching all this old shit. Oh, when you want to swear on the show? I probably should have asked him before we start recording.
What?
If we're allowed to swear on the show.
No, of course.
Okay.
Come on, man. It's like everybody is used to swearing on this channel.
All right.
I actually made the mistake a long time ago to send myself for censorship.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
What an idiot I was. This is what I'm talking about, like what I said earlier about how I look back at some of my old videos and I'm actually censoring fuck. Like, really? Really? I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem with swear words at all.
That's
we do it anyway. You have absolutely nothing to worry about. On this channel, it's just sometimes YouTube will be very sensitive when it comes to political topics or any sort of racial issue, which we will not get into in this show, ever.
Yeah, my day job used to involve both of those things, and no, I've left that life behind.
No,
Thank goodness.
We only talk about gaming on this channel. But yeah, the whole Angry Joe thing, I completely understand where he's coming from, but at the same time, I also completely understand where his audience is coming from. I actually saw one of the comments that were like, yo, I know a woman who has 3 kids and works 2 jobs that would kill to have the job that you have. But I understand because I have also been in those jobs where work in the warehouse 40 hours a week. My body is aching like shit. I can barely have time to go to the gym and hang out with friends. So I understand what you've been through, bro. Like, I'm telling you, like, I wake up every day thankful that I get to do what I do for a living. There's not a single day, because I remember those days. And I feel like if you just stay humble, just be appreciative for what you have. Just know that the people who watch your videos are the reason why you are where you're at. Just stay humble, and everything will work out for you.
Well, and I think, and as I said, part of being humble is admitting that you're not perfect.
You gotta swallow your pride, man. You got to swallow your pride.
You know, one of the things that I never appreciated until so just to touch on cons one more time. One thing I never appreciated as an event planner, because I started off being just a regular volunteer and then just buying my way into cons for a while before I decided to take up the mantle of starting, my gaming group and working behind the scenes. But being able to swallow that pride, especially when someone's staring you in the face, it's a lot different when you're on the internet and
you're just absorbing the words and you're like, but when you actually talk to somebody face to face, man to man, human to human,
and they tell you, hey, you done fucked up, and more importantly, in your, not just in the back of your mind, but it's to the forefront, and you're like, all right, something has been wronged. Somebody has been wronged. The ability to be honest and say, you know what, you're right. It's not something I can fix for this show. It's not something, it's like when you put out content. It's, the content is out there.
Mm-hmm.
You can't do anything about it. You can take the video down.
If you screwed up, take the L.
Yeah.
People will call you out on it. Just take the L and move on. And I'm telling you, you will be a lot happier if you were just to go through with that.
Yeah, I think the cover-up and the lashing out.
And not only that, the lashing out, the lack of admission. If you're burnt out, just say so. People will understand. We've all, like we said, we've all been there. Those times where we're just busting our ass day in and day out, and we feel like we don't get any sort of appreciation for it. Just be honest.
I hope any content creator, or anybody who is looking to start making content, whether it's digital, whether it's traditional, anything of that sort, I hope that they get that message. Remember your roots, understand your audience, and don't treat your audience like they're stupid. I know a number of people and a number of event organizers who feel this exact way, and I feel terrible for them because, as a person who, I'm a consumer, and not every show is good, not every show is even great, but
there's more than enough there.
And I'm one of those people that I think bad karma begets bad karma, so I won't name names pretty much ever. But at the same time, you don't grow if you surround yourself by yes people who will swallow your work without question. The people that are sitting here, the white knights that are continuing to defend Joe and lashing out at their peers, the ones that are that have it halfway right, the ones that are like, look, the guy does deserve a break. The guy does want to try new stuff with his channel and all that. Like, I feel for them too, because they're not wrong. They are also part of his audience, and they're like, dude, give a brother a break. You guys, I have no problem, because you're not the problem. Joe and the way that he is handling his naysayers are the problem.
It's funny. One of my old economics professors taught me a very valuable lesson that I still carry to this day. He said, if you really want to test someone's character, like really see what kind of person they are, give them a bunch of money, give them a bunch of power, give them a bunch of influence, just overall success, okay? And then see what they do with it. Now, if they go ahead and build themselves a community, if they try to do anything that benefits others and helps to create something greater, then you know you're in good hands. You got nothing to worry about. But if they use it for their own selfish desires, if they use it to flaunt, you know, they have all the money, the power, the influence, all that, and they just use it to flaunt it to make others jealous, then you have a problem. That's someone that is heading down a very dark path, and you don't know if they'll be able to turn back from it. And I feel like Joe, he does have some of that goodness in him. He just kind of lost his way. I still feel like he's capable of putting out awesome content, but I just feel like he's sort of lost his way in some sorts. I don't know if it's because he looks at Let's Plays and interviews and all this other stuff that he does, his Twitch streams, and he just looks at it like, oh, wow, I'm making almost as much money doing this as my angry reviews, and I don't have to put in that much effort. I might be onto something here.
And I mean, realistically, if that's the issue, if that's where ultimately his passion's going to end up residing, because maybe it doesn't make him as much money, but it makes him
relax a little bit more.
Enough money for significantly less work. Again, be honest with your audience. That's the thing that's, again, the most infuriating is if certain content is going to slow down because the rest of the work takes a fraction of it, there's a reason why, TV has slowed down on stuff like the content patch, which is his multi-news sort of show. And again, he's talked about the fact that when he was doing it regularly, it's that kind of show that just takes a ton of time to put together, to put all the art assets together, to make it a presentation.
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably a lot of what Angry Joe goes through with the angry reviews. It's probably a lot of what you go through with the gaming sins. But, TV, to continue using that example, because it is a channel that I watch very frequently.
Yeah, I respect the hell out of it.
He also does stuff like his rants about things going on within the gaming industry, and he'll literally call the title something to the effect of and now we talk for 25 minutes about
microtransactions, DLC, this whole debacle with Stargate. No, he wasn't the one. He did talk about that whole Stargazer debacle that happened a couple months ago.
And realistically, it's some video on loop, so single layer video, his single bit of audio, all nice and cut up, and that's it. It's a very simple, by comparison, thing to assemble, put together, render, and get online. And his channel for a while, and I'm sure that if he was ever asked, he'd probably admit it, it took a while to find that right balance. But the thing that he did was, there were times where he's been in those rants and said, there are things about this channel that have to change in order to better serve the audience, in order to, do the things that he is now passionate about. To deal with the fact that he had his medical issue and needed to rebalance the work in his life to be able to support that. So the channel itself wasn't left content dry.
Right.
And if the truth of the matter is, Joe just can't afford that kind of time, or just doesn't have an interest in continuing the angry reviews, yes, there is going to be a portion of his base that's going to leave. Because that's what they're there for. If he's not putting it out, there's nothing for them. And to those people, we'd be sorry to see you go, but
we understand.
We understand. It's changed. But the people that are his newer supporters, the people that are still on the fence and haven't cemented themselves, the people that are interested in this newer content, they are seeing a very ugly side of him that may turn them off to him because, it's one of the conversations that I have with my friends about Tom Cruise. my guilty pleasure as far as watching uh, horrible movies is I hate Tom Cruise as a person. And I very rarely use the H word, but I hate Tom Cruise as a person. But I fucking love his movies. I'm sorry. It's on the internet now. It's true.
There's nothing wrong with liking Tom Cruise movies, man. There's some of the Top Gun and Interview with the Vampire and Mission Impossible and Jerry Maguire.
Yeah, I mean,
Minority Report.
But
hey, man.
But
some fantastic movies. Legend.
Yep. The thing is, though, is that those people that are on that fence of, all right, I've seen a few videos, I like this. All right, his angry rants are just really angry rants. Okay. Those are the people that I'm worried about him chasing off, because the ones that are there for just the one thing, there's no redeeming him at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Unless he tucks his tail between his legs, in which case everyone's going to come back on the internet and be like, you said that, that you're not doing this for the money, but now you're doing the thing that makes you the most money because you already admitted that to us. Like, there's no winning with these guys at this point. They're done. Like, let's not kid ourselves. But the people that are on the fence, the people that, when this crumbles under him, as it will, that will possibly help him pick up the pieces and move on to what he actually wants to do, those are the people that are going to be really critical looking at this rant and listening to these discussions. Because those are the ones that, again, they don't have all the time in the world to just consume everything. I mean, if they did, they would probably be one of those people that bitch about the fact that he doesn't do angry reviews and listen to him anyway. Because some people have nothing but time on their
I got nothing but time on this cerulean death dreidel we call a planet.
So, for the people that have to make that decision of how are you going to spend your time the best, they're going to look for something else. And as we pointed out, Angry Joe is not the only person who does his shtick. One of the things that you and I have personally talked about is, very rarely do you find an original idea on YouTube, and even more rarely does it stay an original idea for long, because you have the copycats, you have the people that are looking, that look and see your thing and say, you know what, I could do that better. He's not.
I already know we have a couple of them.
He's not that funny, but they still watch all of your content because they need to know what their competition's doing, and it's no different. It's no different. It's no different out in the real world. You do it in business. You do it in event planning. You do it running any sort of organization. It allows you to look at something from an outside perspective and see all those little details that you don't catch because you're too close. You're the one who's been editing it for, 30, 40, 50, 70 hours, and it's all just noise to you at this point.
Yeah.
But the person who's listening to it fresh, the person who's has no expectation until the words come out of your mouth, they're the ones that are like, hey, did he just snap into the microphone? Like, not even 30 seconds ago? There's somebody writing that YouTube comment, by the way. I see you. I see you writing that comment. But realistically, those are the people that are going to benefit from Angry Joe making this decision. Because they're a smaller channel. They're a channel that doesn't have his backing financially. They don't have a sign-on to any particular network. And
they're the ones that are going to be the hungriest.
And those are going to be the ones that say, you know what? Angry Joe is taking a 2-month hiatus.
Oh boy, do I have the opportunity to make an impact.
You know what? I can take a week of vacation or something, and I can crank out, 2 months worth of videos if I release one every week. Or even if I don't release one every week, maybe every other week. Or, 6 out of the 8 weeks, something like that. I can pump out enough content so these people that are starving for the content that Joe used to put out, I could say, give me a chance. Give me a chance, because this is kind of my thing too. I know it's kind of, a lot of people see it as scummy or schemy to to advertise on other people's channels. But again, that degree of humility.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I feel this way too. I make videos in this similar style. If you're interested, here's the link to my latest. That bit of humility, that bit of, I feel you, we're in this together.
It goes a long way, man. Long,
And
and a longer way than you might ever think.
and the thing is his loss.
Is someone else's game.
That's where I really see, like, when the dust settles, regardless of what Angry Joe does, because he's got to work himself out of this hole. Like, there's no doubt in my mind that he's got to figure out something, because, you know, there comes that tipping point of you can't afford to bleed anymore. And we're going to see if he hits that.
Yep. In due time, as the old saying goes, the show must go on. We'll see if somebody else picks up that show.
Oh, man.
Oh.
I'll listen to it.
Anyway, we have spent almost an hour on Angry Joe. Time to
Oh,
move on to another topic. Fortnite. New game by Epic Games. Very popular on Twitch right now at the moment. It is the sandbox shooter crafting sort of game released to much fanfare. And it's a very, like I said, it's a very popular game on Twitch right now. I've taken a look at some of the gameplay. It does look pretty fun.
It reminds me of...
It's got the style of Overwatch and TF2, and sort of has that Orcs Must Die type of gameplay.
Yes. Oh,
Yeah.
Because of the whole, like, building mechanic, and, like, not just... Because Orcs Must Die has the thing where you put down traps and you can make changes on the fly in the combat. But I've also really appreciated that you can also build the buildings and mess with the terrain and all that, too.
Mm-hmm.
So, when people have asked me about Fortnite, I'm like, it's kind of like Minecraft meets Left 4 Dead, and then it just decided to pick up an Orcs Must Die vibe while it was at it.
We're a great combination, I gotta say.
I'm going to be honest, that was that game that, like, I didn't know about it just before release.
Yeah, I heard about it like one of the shows at E3. Somebody did an interview on it. I was like, oh, this looks pretty interesting. When is this coming out? Oh, July 25th or whatever. I'm like, well then, might have to check it out.
I had a buddy of mine who's been a friend of mine from high school, so we've known each other forever. And we very rarely talk because both adults with conflicting schedules. So, but One day I woke up to a message from him, and he was just like, "Hey, have you checked this out yet?" I'm like, "No." Giant question mark in my mind. But, you know, again, he wouldn't ask me this for no reason. And I start watching the video. I come back and I see he sent me another message on Facebook saying, like, yeah, you really liked Orcs Must Die, and you were pushing that pretty heavily for a while, so I figured this was your jam. And I'm like, oh!
Yeah, check it out.
I'm so excited. So I haven't picked it up yet, which is extremely disheartening. But
yeah, and that's exactly what I was going to get to.
I am hoping, one, to definitely pick it up and pick it up soon, and then two, one of the things you and I have talked about is that I want to get back into streaming because I've been extremely lazy about it as of late. Thank you, Final Fantasy XIV expansion dropping and sucking my soul. But I get the feeling that when and if I jump back into streaming on a regular basis, that is definitely going to be one of those games because I've already done.
It's definitely a game that you have to play with friends to get the full experience out of.
And especially with tools like Discord and OBS and being able to just blend all that stuff together nice and easy now to where any person with access to a headset and, you know, computer that can stream, it's going to be that stream bait for a while. But at the same time, that's the kind of gameplay that all of my friends really enjoy. So I know if I talk to some of my convention friends, or hell, who knows, maybe even you and I can take a crack at it, that would be fun.
Yeah. It does look like a very exciting game. However, there is one particular issue that I have with it that I feel is very important that seems to be going over a lot of people's heads. It's an early access game. It's paid, but it's eventually going to be free to play. Now, depending on the edition that you get, you could be spending up to a little bit over $100 for this game. But it's going to be free to play. Okay, am I missing something here, or is this business practice as sinister as I believe it to be? Is this just some clandestine method of getting a pay-to-win model, or?
And I mean, that's really, without, because I haven't done a lot of my homework on like what the different tier packages give you and all that. But let's face it, I have played more than my fair share of free-to-play games. In fact, one of the panels that I used to do, I haven't done it in several years, was gaming on a budget. And of course, a very big portion of that is there's a lot of free-to-play games that, as you point out, they're pay to win. Like you can play for a certain point and get to a certain threshold, but you're eventually going to run into that boss or run into that campaign that you're not going to have access to, or whenever you do the math for how much damage you can do over a certain amount of time, how much healing you can do, blah blah blah. The math just doesn't work. You have to spend money to progress, as opposed to say pay to advance, which is, hey, you're literally shaving off days, weeks, months of grinding. And when you start talking about months, that's when it starts to get in that morally gray area.
Yeah.
But, at least I could see there being an argument between, hey, if I sit here and theoretically play the game for 20 hours a day for however long, I could get everything. If I also am very good with my RNG. Thank you, Korean MMOs, for introducing loot boxes.
That's not putting anybody on blast or anything.
No, Blizzard. No. I wouldn't do that, not once. But realistically, those are two very different models, and the way that they treat their customers and the way that they view their customers are very, very different. Now, I know, because I have played through a number of games, MMOs, shooters, what have you, that have started as pay-to-play, etc., and then ultimately they've gone the free-to-play model because it's a model that's made more money. It's a model that has allowed them to
it just gets attention really quickly.
Well,
you say the word free, and they're like, "Oh yeah, now I can take my time and invest in this."
Well, not only that, but it's I'll give it a shot. If
it's free, what's the worst that could happen?
Exactly. I wasted a day downloading it and installing it, and maybe I had issues with the actual getting the game started. I played it for an hour and a half. It sucked. I uninstalled it. That's your investment when you're talking about free to play. When you start talking about pay to subscribe or pay to invest. As I said, I pay for Final Fantasy 14, so I deal with both of these. At least on a monthly basis. But just $60 price tag for a new game, and we know that all that initial investment is made within those first few weeks of a game being on the market. That's how they judge. Is this a flop? Is this a successful game? What can we do with this? With this model, my question was going to be, okay, once it becomes free to play, once it becomes that, once that threshold's established of now you can get into the game without an investment. And that's kind of what, investment's a really weird term in terms of getting
it's sort of a very tricky ground that you're walking on when it comes to this.
But that's a rant about early access that I will spare your listeners. But when it comes down to the heart of the matter, the thing that needs to be established is what is it that the basic, never put any money into this, never done anything to support this. I'm just getting into the game now because it's free to play and all it costs me is some install time. What are my customers who have supported me since the beginning? Like, again, the $100.
Where did you install it on?
Huh?
Because when I tried it out on PS4, And I downloaded it and I went into the main menu. It said, "Oh, you're unable to connect to the servers or play this game because you need to purchase a founders pack or whatever."
For which?
For Fortnite on PS4.
Oh, for Fortnite? I haven't picked up Fortnite yet.
Mm, okay.
Like I said, I'm waiting. I'm gonna get there.
I'm gonna get there. Yeah.
I'm
Yeah. On Fortnite, if you try to play it on PS4, you have to purchase a founders pack in order to play it.
really, because I know sometimes Sony and Microsoft have their own weird licensing agreements.
Yeah, maybe it's just Sony being ass backwards like they usually are.
Yeah, but realistically, I think the biggest thing is going to be once it's free to play.
Yeah, I'll wait on that.
Whenever that is, what is it that people that have bought the founders packs?
Yeah.
People that again like paid in, and this is not just true of Fortnite, but for any game, $20, $30, $50, $100, $200. What is it you're getting that Joe Average, who started way later, A, you're going to have the advantage of extra time just because you've had more time with the game. If there's any sort of like grinding for loot system, you're going to have more of that. And those do just overall, across multi-genre, those things tend to become stingier and drop less just as game development goes on. I mean, I'm really hard-pressed to think of an exception to that, but I'm sure your commenters will be like, oh, when we played this game, we ended up getting more stuff this time. So, but for most games, it's the people who get in later, they don't get the same rewards. There's a Nexon game, and I know I mentioned Nexon, and there's going to be people like,
Nexon.
They are the ones that do MapleStory. They did Vindictus, Mabinogi. But Vindictus is the one that I actually spent a fair amount of time in because that was a period of my life where I didn't have much money to spend and I needed to scratch my MMO itch on something free to play. And the game had some neat ideas to it. But my brother got access to the closed beta. He sent me his invite code, so I got into the beta. And, at the beginning, there were stuff like Goddess's Blessing, which is basically like an auto-revive and a brief invincibility. There was extra inventory stuff. There was this, there was that. All of these cool things that you would get as just daily login bonuses.
Yeah. It's
just kind of the company's way of saying, like, we know there's server stability issues. We know, certain plot lines are broken, or you're reading some English or what have you. And this is kind of our way of saying, like, we know the game isn't perfect, but you're putting up with it, we're putting up with it, here's some stuff. But once it got to its release, it still would give out stuff, but it gave out less stuff and less stuff. And it started relying more and more on those new people that now see it's a finished game, in air quotes, and they go to the cash shop. And on top of that, it's not like a strictly cash shop. You have to buy the Nexon points. So, that never lines up properly. And so, they have to go and they spend their points. And they have this balance left over that they're going to do something with. And then the next thing comes out and then they want to spend more points. And they have to go pay it for another card. And rinse and repeat. These guys have the math down for this stuff to a science. Where at the beginning of the game, when you're trying to attract people, overwhelm them with the amount of cool stuff that they're going to have. Because that's the reward when you're not charging money.
Right.
For them suffering through
that's the way
bullshit.
Of generating interest.
With the model that Fortnite's going through, you have the issue of the fact that people are paying to have that exclusivity, to have that ahead of time. And who knows, maybe they have some sort of login bonus or daily. Again, this is me admitting my ignorance to the exact model that it's built on right now. So people may not just start off with their bought-in advantage, but they may have a significant one when the game finally releases. But if that's not the case, or even if it is, what is the basic package going to look like? Again, for your casual, person that's picking up Fortnite for the first time, having just watched an ad on YouTube or just heard from their favorite YouTuber, hey, this game finally released after being in early access for however long, and I'm playing it now because I'm doing my little Let's Play 7-episode thing where I get to be a goofball with my friends. What are they not going to be getting because they
didn't play? They didn't buy in. See, my concern with it is that they might just pull what Activision did with Destiny. Remember how Destiny released? They had the vanilla version, and then they had the 2 expansions. And then they had the Taken King, with $40 expansion, and then the Rise of Iron, another was $30 expansion. Now, I played Destiny when it first released, and then I picked it up again just a few weeks ago. There's a section in that part at the Citadel or whatever, the tower or whatever, where you can automatically level up your character to level 25. So I'm wondering if they're going to shaft these early adopters with Fortnite, with the $50 or $60, $100 Founders Pack that they're going to be purchasing, but then just going to give away those sorts of goodies later on if the player base starts to drop off for the free-to-play people.
And I guess the question then, from the business standpoint, is because that puts them in an interesting dilemma. They either cater to that founding group and say, okay, well, our numbers are dying. What do we, an appeal to, all right, we need a way to revitalize the game. Like, this is what we're thinking of doing, but
they're gonna,
apparently just being free is not enough.
Yeah.
And one of the things they may have to do is they may have to have some sort of kickback to the founders of like, look, we made this business decision because the numbers are dying and we feel that people will go for this. But at the same time, we don't want to spurn you guys who've been here through thick and thin and seen, like, the one thing you don't want for your hardcore base is for them to sit around and wait. That's something that Battleborn's going through right now.
Struggle-born.
Exactly. It's the good luck getting into a game. And that's not a situation you want to find yourself in either. The thing that you want to find is the ability for them to bring in those new people and make them not feel so far behind. Because the disparity is too great. Nobody likes the feeling of just getting stomped. That's the reason why, as imperfect as Overwatch's matches may be, like, I'll be honest, I'm one of those people that I'm very much like a 40-60 win-loss ratio.
Hey, man, so am I, but I don't really care for wins in that game. I just want to troll people.
But the thing is at least I feel competitive. Like, the amount of times where it's just laughably stompable in either direction is very few. And it's very satisfying when, like, you're on that winning side, or even when it's, like, a clutch move and something kills you, and you're just like,
Clutch Lucio!
Yep.
Right here.
Diva mech drop, head to kill, And it's just like, alright, like, even though I'm mad at you right now, like, that deserved play of the game, I'm really mad that I got caught in that, but, like, you don't feel cheated.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that I'm worried that Fortnite is going to have an issue with. On one end of the spectrum, having everyone feel like they can contribute and they do, have a place in this game. But on the other hand, like, its player base is going to drop from its initial, hey, we are now a full game and there's a free-to-play option. Like, it's going to inflate to huge numbers, and then it's going to slowly diminish to where it probably should be. Because just about every game that I've ever played that's gone free-to-play has done this exact thing.
Evolve, looking at you. Oh, wait. Yeah. Evolve is no longer in existence.
And that's exactly the problem. If it shrinks too much, then it's not sustainable and they're not going to be able to keep this game afloat. But where do you find that line in the middle? Where do you
Mm-hmm.
find that pleasing your long-term fans and making sure that they know that they are loved and appreciated, and you're thankful that you can continue to do the job that you're doing, so you don't have to go work on another project. And in the same breath, uh, bring in those new people, the Joe casual that will be your future customer and will be the person that's paying your bills from here on.
And that sort of goes into the whole idea of how the gaming industry is changing, where you no longer have games as a work of art. It's sort of like a service. You know, what can the businesses do to extend the lifespan of a game for as long as they can? You know how Activision and Bungie were talking about the whole 10-year plan with Destiny and whatnot. Like, what exactly were you planning to do with this IP that would extend it to that long? It's a really strange time that we live in, where it goes back to Anthem. Like Anthem, they were talking about at E3, one of the most hyped games that people were talking about after E3. They were like, "Oh, it's a new IP from BioWare," and all I could think of when I was watching that whole presentation was, "I'm getting a lot of Destiny flashbacks. I'm getting a lot of Division flashbacks." Those games had very poor stories. They were big open worlds. You really could only find fun if you're with friends. Your only incentive is to find loot, and then just go about and shoot shit wherever. And I'm like, how long can you do that before you get bored with it? Like, what kind of business plan do you have in store for a game like that that would keep people interested?
I think part of that goes to the idea, and I mean, we talked about Destiny a little bit, but that's one of the reasons why expansion content, I mean, even back in the day, was such a big deal in the first place. It was the improving upon the game's core mechanics, adding in extra elements or extra story or this or that
Mm-hmm.
uh, to include, to improve the longevity of the game. The idea of a lot of expansion content now being turned into DLC, which has been the truth for what the industry has turned into in the last 10 years
Mm-hmm.
or so. This is not a new concept.
It isn't, yeah.
But the thing is as you said, you need to have a certain degree of core gameplay that is good. There are people that still play Halo 1, 2, and 3 because they don't like the direction that 343 took the Halo franchise.
Mm-hmm.
So there's, whether it's nostalgia or whether it's just that's the era that speaks to them mechanically,
Mm-hmm.
that's where they choose to hang their hat. With something like Destiny, where they started off with the idea of, hey, we're planning to make this a longer franchise, they start to have to think in the ways that MMOs kind of have to think. It's okay, obviously the biggest thing about MMOs is they're a huge financial risk. Even your crappy Korean ones are still crazy expensive to develop. And then once you throw in marketing, once you throw in, people installing it, the bandwidth, etc., like, it's a risky venture. So, first part of an MMO is just to survive.
Mm-hmm.
Get it off the ground. Heck, one of the things that as a 14 player I wholeheartedly appreciate is Final Fantasy 14, the first version, was terrible. It was so terrible that they stopped selling it. And they stopped taking people's money for it because it was that bad. And they acknowledged that. If it was not Square Enix, if it had been a Nexon or, some other like Blue Hole Studios, something like that, like, it wouldn't exist. It would have been done. It would have been canceled. It would have went the way of Evolve, and servers are off and the game is dead. Fortunately, we're talking about Square Enix, who brought in a whole new team and said, you know what, we're going to try and revamp it. We're going to try and make it something that is worth playing. And whether you agree with their decisions or not, 1.0 and A Realm Reborn, which is 2.0, are two totally different games from the ground up. And once the game was successful, and once it was in the black and making the money, then they get to ask the question that I feel is important to Destiny is, okay, what happens next? Like, where are we building towards? Where are we, what are we working towards? What's the narrative? What's the experience that they want them to take out? Because the thing is if it's just a game about exploring big open worlds, okay, give us more big open worlds. Give us variety. Give us new things to find. Give us new... Because, as you said, people will make their own fun.
Mm-hmm. Just ask the Team Fortress and CSGO people. They'll make their own damn fun.
Yeah.
Given the opportunity.
So, all you need to do is give them the platform to do it. And that's kind of where Destiny, I feel right now, is still missing its mark. The DLCs and the expansions helped. But I still feel it's very much it's not enough. It's still too samey. But that's just me. I'm cautiously staring at Destiny 2, seeing what they do with that.
Please. As someone who's playing Destiny right now, I'm telling you, it's a chore to get through. It is because that's not my type of game at all. I am not fond of the looter shooter, open world, but nothing really interesting happening in the world, and no cohesive story. That's my bread and butter. That's why I love RPGs so much. They have compelling stories, interesting characters, and I just don't feel any of that with Destiny. But like I said, Destiny 2 is pretty much the exact same thing as far as mechanically, visually. None of it is compelling.
Well, and the thing is
same old shit, dog, just a different day. That's pretty much what Destiny is to me in a nutshell.
And that's kind of disappointing. It's not disappointing for the people that are into that.
Yeah, for the people who are into Destiny, oh my god, this is I'm gonna get my itch scratched.
Yeah.
For this game again.
Yeah, but as you said, like the reason why I've stuck with 14 is because I really like that there is a main story plot progression, and when you go through A Realm Reborn, like you could tell with those first few patches, once you get to level 50 and you start going through the content leading up to the expansion, like at the first few, it's a bunch of fetch quests, it's a bunch of like talk to this person 10 feet away. Like you could just tell if you take a step back and look at it from a narrative standpoint, that they didn't know where they were going with the story. They didn't know what they were working towards. It was just, hey, this is content we need to fill because people are bored and are going to abandon ship if they don't have something to do. But once you start getting to the latter half of that and start working into the two expansions, like their storytelling ability becomes better, the characters become a bit more dynamic. Your character, being the silent protagonist, still has better interaction and feels like they are at least reacting to what's going on in the group at large. And that's something that they learned, Square Enix learned while developing this and kind of learning how to pace things better. And that's something that, again, like, I also, like, if I got the chance to play Destiny, and I've had the opportunity, my brother owns an Xbox 360 and an Xbox One, like, I'll probably come over and play it for a weekend, to just kill time and have a new experience.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not like Overwatch. It's not that game that I'm going to say, you know what, I have 15 minutes to kill. I'm just going to go drop in, play a game, and then go work on something that I really should have probably done 15 minutes ago, and I just need to shoot something. That's not going to be Destiny for me.
Yeah.
Destiny might be that, Friday night, people come over, we get pizza, and we mess around in it, but it's not going to be my go-to game.
Right. Exactly. Well, we'll just have to wait and see with how well it goes, how well it sells when it releases.
I'm sure it'll sell great. That's the problem.
September 6th. Yeah. Not a fan of those games. Anyway, enough about Fortnite. It was an interesting topic. Now we move on to our dear friend Samus Aran. One of my favorite video game characters of all time. As anybody who even remotely pays attention to this channel knows that I am a huge Metroid fan. I have been looking forward to a new Metroid Prime game for quite some time. I'm very much looking forward to Samus Returns, which is the Metroid 2 remake coming for the Nintendo 3DS. And fun fact, Metroid 2 is the only Metroid game that I have never completed because I had a Game Boy that broke back in the day.
You completed Other M.
I did complete Other M.
I realize you might have done that for the channel, but I might have less respect for you right now.
That's the only time I played it, though. It was for the channel.
Yeah, but that memory is burned into you forever. You can't get rid of that. You can't watch.
Actually, I can. My short-term memory loss can absolutely get rid of Other M, but when I'm going to be playing Samus Returns, I'll forget it ever happened, and I'll just burn it out of my brain. Anyway.
Unless it's fantastic, in which case you're going to burn it into your brain.
Metroid 2, yes, I will burn it. I will burn it into my brain.
I think we can all agree that Metroid Other M. No.
Let's suck on Metroid's dick as well as it can. Anyway.
Wait, no, it needs to ask Adam's permission first.
True. It needs Adam's permission.
Can I suck
God, that game is such a fucking abomination. Whatever. Anyway. There's a controversy around the new Metroid game, Metroid 2 Samus Returns. The amiibos that come with it, the 2-pack with Samus and the Metroid, has content locked behind it. Basically, if you have to purchase said amiibos if you want to unlock hard mode, if you want to unlock a reserved energy tank, which is an in-game mechanic. Not too surprisingly, the internet didn't take too kindly to this. So it always goes back to the question of, where do you draw the line as far as the morality and business sense goes when it comes to these sort of practices. You're locking a difficulty mode, which is what players would like to access should they complete the game on normal difficulty, but you're locking it behind an amiibo. Like, where do you draw the line? Because to me, like, I look at it and I'm like, okay, I can finally get some use out of my amiibos that I've had for a few years now. I mean, the only time I use my Samus amiibos is for Smash Brothers. That's all it's compatible with. And now I could use it for a new Metroid game to unlock an art gallery or a music selection. But to other people, it's a scummy move by Nintendo, just a way to milk money out of their fans. And here I'm sitting like, oh, you guys are finally starting to catch on? Sony and Microsoft have been doing this for years now. But now the Nintendo does it. Oh, the darling of the gaming industry. Guys, like, as much as I despise it, and believe me, I do, when it all boils down to, this is a business. If you want... I've said it before, and I'll say it again. The only language that corporations speak is money. If you don't like something or you don't approve of their business practices, just don't give it to them. You don't have to purchase the amiibos. I mean, Nintendo's going to get money from me just based off the game, and that's all they're getting from me. I'm not going to purchase the amiibos just so I can unlock fucking hard mode. It's not happening.
Well, and I think from the consumer standpoint, the frustration about having all this content, or the different kinds of content behind the amiibos, include, like you said, the extra energy tank, which hurts the casual, the one who actually could really use that extra energy tank, the completionist, who wants to get everything, and the speedrunner, because if you're familiar with the speedrunning community, there are a number of challenges that are not just based on getting through the games the fastest, but a lot of times getting through the games the fastest with all of the materials, 100%ing. And the fact that, now you're going to segment that community into the all but one speed tank, or, energy tank speed run, and then the all energy tank included speed run is kind of silly.
It is a bit pernicious, I'll tell you that.
Now, the ones who are really interested in pushing themselves into the hard mode, these are the ones that usually do the like minimum missile runs, the people that don't get the optional upgrades because they know how to cheese their way through the game. And of course, the biggest thing about Metroid has always been the exploration, the sequence breaking. Like that's kind of its jam. But those people, the ones that would normally not worry about any of that other stuff, those are going to be the ones that push for hard mode. And those are the ones that are going to be upset because not only do they have to get content, like content left behind in Amiibo, but in order to get the complete package, because those people are going to be the ones that are now trying to push those records. 100% hard mode, no energy tanks, so on and so forth. Or 100%ing with all the energy tanks. Like, now you put them in a spot where, thank goodness, or to your frustration, you only have to buy the 2 amiibo pack, but you do have to buy them together all as one thing. You can't just pick up hard mode.
That's right, there is no sold separately.
And really what it comes down to is Nintendo is going down this practice because the difference between this and DLC, and I think this is kind of the distinction, because I know that there are probably some people that would be a proponent of this and say, well, guess what? This is how expansion content works. This is what DLC is. I said that even earlier in this program. Like, that's what DLC is it's mini expansions. What we used to call that in PC gaming forever ago. And we still call it that sometimes now. But the fact that it's locked behind a physical product, and the problem with the physical product is stock.
Exactly.
The fact that I may not be able to play hard mode, not because I don't have the money.
And not because you're not incapable due to your skill.
Yeah. But because of the fact that, I live in Hodunktown, Iowa, and I have, Walmart and one other game store, and between the two of them we get like 15 copies or 10 copies, and I'm just not there, because I've got to work, say, 9 to 5, and kids with no job or other, or they take the day off school or what have you, go and pick them up early, and I have to scalp on eBay, go through PlayAsia, wait for the next shipment, which could be weeks or months from now, and that's assuming they make another shipment. I'd be livid.
The thing is, though, it's not a surprise, but Nintendo is notorious for this, to blatantly stock limited supply on a certain product so they can brag about how well it's sold out. Because they know people are feverish. They did that with the what is it?
The NES.
The NES Mini and the new.
Oh man, they announced the SNES Mini, and I'm just, on one hand, being consumer conscious and not liking this, the way that they're doing this. I want to boycott the SNES Mini. But they also have completed, and they're going to be releasing on it, Star Fox 2. And that's the only thing that's making me, like, internally, like, you can hear the yin and yang trying to separate from me, fighting for dominance over which side is going to win, my good side and my dark side. And I'm just... And
that's exactly what they depend on. That is exactly what Nintendo depends on. They psychologically trick you into thinking that you need this because they're going to be putting out a limited supply. They want to prey on your impatience.
Well, and the thing is, their big excuse when they finally said, hey, we're pulling the plug on this, was something to the effect of, we didn't expect it to sell as well as it did, and it's constantly sold out, and there's nothing.
No, they know damn well that Nintendo fans are feverish.
Yeah, and
in their loyalty,
and
they'll buy anything.
That's exactly what I'm worried about with the SNES. we just dealt with this last year. Yes, I realize that consumers a lot of the time have short-term memory.
Mm-hmm.
But some of us who have been working in
some
the
of us
industry
who have
for a
been
while,
burnt
like,
and been in the industry, we
yeah,
know.
We still see our scars, and they're like, that one looks surprisingly like an NES. Why did we get this one again? Oh, right. And then there are some of us that look and we're like, well, we still have another hand that hasn't been burned. I guess we'll have one there, too. They'll match.
Oh, yeah, that's precisely why Nintendo's doing this, because they know that Metroid fans have been clamoring for a legit Metroid game for the past 10 years. Remember, we don't count Other M and Federation Force as Metroid games. They're the redheaded stepchild that we lock in the basement and feed fish to on occasion, and pretend like they don't exist. Those are those games. We've been wanting a legitimate Metroid game. And honestly, as much as I don't care for remakes, this is one remake that I will damn sure support.
Make sure you ask Adam first.
Thing is, though, the thing that really annoys me about this is that there are some people who are legitimately boycotting this game simply because it's not the AM2R fan remake.
Oh, boy.
That was released, that
Here
Nintendo shut down like a few months ago. It's like, guys, come on. If you want the Metroid franchise to survive, at the very least, just purchase Metroid 2. Give them faith.
Well, and, one of the things...
As much as Nintendo has been fucking up so much over the past few years, I will let them slide on this Metroid 2 remake that they're going to be releasing.
Well, I'm a big Capcom fan. Despite the fact that I'm not particularly fond of their business practices as of late, I grew up particularly with Mega Man, but also a number of other franchises. Mm-hmm. I remember when they announced that Mega Man Legends 3 was in development. And I was one of those people. I was very, very active on the forums. Mm-hmm. I made sure to send my emails and letters when I could. And that was back when I was working 80-hour weeks and dealing with a rehearsal schedule and some real life issues. So that was pretty much like whatever extra energy I had. And I remember them releasing their statement about why they were canceling it, and the thing that burned into my brain, the thing that I won't forget, is
I never forgive.
If they fucking release it, I'll forgive them. But, short of that, absolutely not. But one of the things that they mentioned is, we don't really see the support behind this. We don't think this is going to be, commercially viable because the fan support isn't there. And, I thought to my fellow moderators who put in, I put in, say, dozens of hours. There's people that, again, have nothing but time on their hands that have spent hundreds of hours, thousands of hours, compiling information, poring over comments, assembling these things and sending them off to Capcom representatives because they care that much that this is successful. Hell, I wouldn't be surprised if a Mega Man 3 fan project pops up because of...
Wait, didn't they already have a Mega Man fan project? It was called Mighty Number 9.
Oh...
one of the very infamous and harsh lessons in Kickstarter funding, and why I am very hesitant to fund any sort of project from Kickstarter, which is...
I have very bad luck about picking Kickstarters that actually come to fruition.
Mm-hmm.
I am one of those people that I've supported a few dozen. Particularly, I'd say at least a dozen video games. Because I do more stuff with Tabletop, but video games, I think that's a good solid number.
Mm-hmm.
And it was stuff like the first attempt at Pathfinder Online. God Ventures was the one that I bought into. My number 9, for all the complaints I have, at least it delivered me something. It was not good, but it delivered me something. And all of these things, like I apparently, if I'm willing to support it, just don't. Just save your money. That's kind of my moral lesson to everybody. But the thing that really is infuriating is the lack of communication. Because when you throw money in Kickstarter, one of the things that you take as a risk is you just might lose it. A product just might not come out. Sorry, it sucks. It's terrible.
Yeah, financial troubles, just lack of communication, lack of constant updates.
That's always my number one. That's usually my oh shit, something's in trouble. It's when I stop seeing updates. I have worked with a tabletop gaming company, and in complete disclosure, they actually do sponsor a lot of our stuff at cons. But one of the things that I've appreciated them with them as a consumer, because I actually back their Kickstarters out of my personal money and all that, because I think they're a fantastic company and I want to support my friends because they support me.
It's a mutual beneficial relationship.
But the thing that I've always loved is whenever there's been a production thing, whenever they've been behind. There was one particular situation where they had been translating and bringing over products to America. Like that's kind of their niche. But they actually originated content with both the American side and the Japanese side in collaboration. And they were always upfront about like, it's taking us much longer than we thought to do the collaboration because when we're not busy, they're busy. The time zones are different, so we're not meeting as often, so on and so forth. But the fact that we kept getting those continual updates, when people would come up to me at cons and say like, oh, I heard this Kickstarter isn't coming out, and I'm just like, guys, have faith. I know waiting, because we waited, I think, an extra year and 2 months past what they were supposed to be. And I was just like, it's going to come out. I know it's going to come out. And I know when it does, it's going to have that quality, it's going to have that polish, it's going to be a good product because they have this track record. And it's not just, I know people are going to listen to that and think like, yeah, but Inafune had a track record and not by himself.
Exactly, he had support behind him.
As part of a company where he had people with financial interests and people that needed him to deliver on certain things, he was able to. But when he had the chance to take control of the reins and didn't have that voice over his head saying, you have to do this, there are certain things, like that degree of quality control from critical people or people that don't understand everything that's going on, so you have to explain it to them. That's honestly where I personally feel, purely on anecdotal evidence, that Mighty Number 9 really fell apart. Like, mechanically, there's some clumsiness to it, I'll admit that, and parts of it feel rushed, but I think if the right person had been at the helm, Mighty Number 9 could have been the Mega Man of this generation. Especially because Capcom seems to show no interest in bringing out Mega Man games.
They'll throw you a bone every once in a while with a Zero skin
Mega Man Collection 2.
Marvel vs. Capcom 3.
The Mega Man Collection 2 is something that's going on this year, and it's like 7, 8, 9, and 10, and I'm like, first off, it's cool that 9 and 10 are actually getting a proper release and not just a download. I bet you, realistically, the Mega Man Legends 3 thing was probably off the fact that 9 and 10 didn't sell fantastic because they're retro-style Mega Man games, and they are hard. They are hard, and I've completed their achievements, but I'm not a very good video gamer. Fuck if that didn't take a long time for me to do. And I just feel that they look at these numbers and don't analyze the why. They look at these numbers, they're not what they expect them to be. And, 7, 8, 9, and 10 are already created, so put on a good splash screen and the ability to change save states and a few other things. throw it out and call it a new, like a collection part 2.
Uh-huh.
I mean, if nothing else, you can throw that up on Steam and it'll just make you money during sales. And Mighty Number 9 could have been that wrecking ball. It could have been that game that like snuck in. I mean, it had a lot of press and all that behind it, so all eyes were on it anyway. But if it hit surprise,
it was the chosen one.
Yeah.
It was the one that was going to deliver on what those side-scrolling Mega Man fans have been craving for a long, long time.
And if it did, I guarantee you, like, Capcom would have crapped a brick, and you would be seeing a flurry of new Mega Man things coming out, and them playing with the formula. I mean, it could even be offshoots of the games. Heck, one of my favorite games is Mega Man X Command Mission, and that's it's a Mega Man RPG. I adore it to death. It's not the greatest RPG, but you know what? It's cool.
It works.
I was like, probably my favorite besides the original Mega Man X. But because, as you said, like it bundled it so bad, and it came out to such a disappointment. Kickstarters that may have had similar ideas or were interested in that can now look at this and say, well, either we need to do something different that isn't what we were planning, because this game is universally panned. It gives Capcom all the ammunition in the world to be like, nobody is interested in a Mega Man game.
Mm-hmm.
Put it back on the shelf.
Now that I think about it, is it really the fact that Kickstarter is bad, or is it just the intent behind the projects on Kickstarter that really turns people off? Like, Mighty Number 9. It just was a failed project because financial problems, lack of focus, lack of vision, just lack of foresight, actually. You know, he was announcing 2 other projects before the damn thing was even done.
Oh, and that's the thing that I think was the most, as a person that supported it, that was
red flag! Red flag!
It's the same problem I have with Tim Schafer. I think the last great thing that he made was Psychonauts, and I know people are going to disagree with that, but realistically...
Was that after or before Grim Fandango?
After.
Oh, okay.
Because that was...
Fandango was a long time ago.
Yeah, that was...
I keep getting my years mixed up when it comes to this project.
GameCube, Xbox era was when Psychonauts came out. I think it eventually came out on PC too. I think I even bought it as part of a...
Yeah, it's actually on Steam right now for like $4 or whatever.
And totally worth it, by the way.
Yeah, it is.
But realistically, the problem with him is the minute that he stepped away and started, self-publishing his own stuff under Double Fine.
Lack of focus.
Always over budget. Always over time. Like, Broken Age literally had to have a second Kickstarter to finish the second part. And that's something that, was several $1 million above what it asked for. I think it was something around like 2 or 3 million, and it asked for 400,000, like plenty extra. But the thing is a lot of time these developers, especially these self-publishing developers, are the ones that look and they're like, oh, all of a sudden I have this big influx of money. That means I can do more stuff. That means I can add more. That means I can, do more things. That means and the thing is you burn through that because you add in an extra 2 or 3 people to your art team. You add another person to your sound, and that money just goes.
It's the same damn thing that Chris Roberts is going right now with Star Citizen. All this money that you've accumulated over years, you keep getting more, and instead of focusing on the game that you initially intended to build from the get-go, you decide to use this as sort of a hype machine with your Citizen Con. It's like how do you
have a convention for something that you don't have a game for yet?
Exactly. I'm getting really tired that we're getting to the point where it's more about the hype around the game rather than the quality of the game itself.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that a lot of people in this industry, myself included, have just had it up to here with it. So whenever I see a game that is being hyped to astronomical levels, I just groan and like, we'll see. I wonder how bad this is going to flop. I felt like that with Destiny. I felt like that with Watch Dogs. I felt like that with Titanfall. I felt like that with No Man's Sky. And I was right on every single one of them.
You know, although to be fair, I made a very similar wait-and-see criticism with both Diablo 3, which I feel I was still right on, and Overwatch, which I was pleasantly surprised to be wrong on.
Oh.
So, but, you know, again, like you said, whenever you listen to the hype machine, you always have to have that question of, you know, okay,
just look at the intent behind it.
Well, not only that, but have a critical eye, look at the presentation. You know, I get really weary when, you know, you're a year or two out and I don't see any gameplay footage. It's all still cinematic. In fact, we were talking
red flag.
We were talking about Kingdom Hearts 3 earlier, and I'm like, I'm glad that I'm starting to see some things in the game from the previews that they're releasing, because that gives me a little bit of faith of, okay, this isn't just something that they're using to pre-render, you know, play with the camera, bring in these extra assets that they won't be able to interact with in game. Mm-hmm. And seeing that many enemies on the screen makes me wonder, as a curious person, like, how are you going to be able to deal with that many enemies? You've never had to do that before. Mm-hmm. So it means for me, like, there's probably some gameplay elements. There might be things that your teammates do, and all of these questions that I now have. And they fuel my personal hype, which is cool. That's awesome. That's great. I really hope that we see more and learn more, and it makes me stay interested. Mm-hmm. But when I see stuff, like you said, No Man's Sky is kind of a counterexample, where it's like, you know, you're going to be able to visit other people's planets and this and that, and I'm just like, okay, those pretty lofty goals from first time publisher. Like, let's see. Let me see. Your pre-rendered stuff is really, really good. I like the aesthetic. But I'm still not seeing the.
You're not finding that it factor. You know?
Yeah, I'm not
that
finding
spark.
Honestly, if they had basically, because I really liked No Man's Sky. I spent some time in it. But in all honesty, if they had basically said, hey, if this was just basically Metroid Prime, but, you know, the worlds are randomly generated and the entire thing is about exploring rather than killing shit, I would have been like, sold, I'm done. You throw multiplayer in on top of that, I might need a change of pants. But realistically, that's not what they build it as. They build it as, like, you know, there are going to be so many diverse things in these worlds, and this and that. And I'm just like,
yeah, but what is the end goal?
And that's the problem. Is they didn't really define an end goal. Which, I mean, there are certain games that work just fine with that. Hello, Minecraft. Although they eventually built an ending, which I feel is honestly kind of terrible. So I'll skip that. But the people that, you know, are just looking, in our Destiny talk, they're just looking for a world to fuck around in. That's all they want out of it. It's fine. It's great that there are games for those people that exist. Mm-hmm. In fact, they're the people that are still playing No Man's Sky now because they happen to find that works for them. Like, they're fine with exploring and...
Yeah, the three people on the planet that are still playing that.
Yeah, I mean, God bless the three of you. The rest of the people that that bought into the hype because they wanted it to be something it isn't, those are the ones that, you know, are going to be answering that big question because they're the majority. They're going to be the ones that answer the question that you're asking about Kickstarter of. Mm-hmm. When do we get to that point of but, you know, that's when we get to the point of sorry, that almost made me lose my train of thought. I'm just going to edit all this out.
Yeah, it's staying in.
But when it comes to the end goal, the goal of there are these smaller developing companies that want to put out a product. It can be a good product, it can be a not good product. That's ultimately for the consumer to decide, with whatever facts it has in front of it.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the things that are going to make or break this industry in the next few years. You're already starting to see the backlash on Kickstarter of people just being more conservative with their money, with people being pickier about the projects that they pick, that they support.
Mm-hmm.
Even though dollar amounts are going up on Kickstarter, individuals pledging to different projects are fewer. And that's because there's been this fundamental shift of the lack of consumer trust. One of the ones that, again, I supported and completely flopped, never delivered anything aside from that extremely broken alpha, was Yogg Ventures. It was built as a the Yogscast made their name in Minecraft.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're like, hey, we have this supporter base on YouTube. We have a number of people that have told us, like, there are things that, they would basically support whatever we do. So we decided to make a game. They tried to make a game. They worked with, this new, fresh company that, unfortunately, one hiccup after another, couldn't deliver.
Mm-hmm.
And, whatever happens to the money is anyone's guess, because I don't think it's ever been publicly disclosed. And that's the thing is, if you can trust the people that send that message to say, hey, not every project works out, this one failed, this is the reason. Oh, wow, I feel like I'm going back to the Angry Joe rant. It's like, if you're able to convince your people, like, look, we're really sorry. This was our best faith effort. Here it is in the black and white. Our hands are tied. I think a lot of people will look and say, that's incredibly disappointing. Like, I'm sad, I'm angry, the 5 stages of grief for all.
Let it all out, man.
But
that's what I'm saying. Just take your
eventually, I think most people are going to accept that not everything works out, and your money is gone. It happens. First rule of investing: never part with money, or never invest money that you can't afford to part with. It's true in any business.
Absolutely.
When it comes to Kickstarter, the overall vibe shouldn't be any different. That way we're all pleasantly surprised when we actually do get our stuff.
Exactly.
And I think that's one of the reasons why my number 9 people are so pissed, is because they got a product.
Yeah, you got a product. It was just not what you had hoped for.
Yeah. And that's all about, burning out that hype.
And another thing that is that you set your expectations a little bit too high when you wanted this to become basically the replacement for Mega Man.
Well,
and that's the kind of level of satisfaction and fanfare that you're just not gonna match.
And I think that's part of the video generation of gaming, because when I was growing up, I learned about stuff through like Nintendo Power.
Yeah, Nintendo Power, Game Pro, all those magazines.
And you look through some of those things, and the idea of hype was a 2-page spread.
The cover story, basically.
Yeah,
and then like 2-3 pages.
Yeah, your average ad was, a fourth of a page, an eighth of a page, part of a collection, a top 10 list of some sort.
And if you were really lucky, you'd get a TV spot.
Yeah.
On like a popular cartoon, like Animaniacs or Street Sharks or the Beetlejuice cartoon. Yeah, I remember those days.
All that Final Fantasy VII talk about, having all those ads of seeing full motion video for the first time. It helped to shape an entire generation.
Mm-hmm.
That happened around my teenage years, and, it made me realize, going from like the NES and the Super Nintendo, like, wow, like a game system can do that? And that's incredible. Like, that feeling it's hype. It's not any different now than, someone looking at a YouTube video because a company has made sure to, cut and paste the particular parts it wants you to see and wants you to get into. And you look at that, so the hype thing hasn't changed. The way that we are introduced to the hype, the way that we feel about the hype, the way that we analyze the hype, that's all different. But the hype machine is always been there.
It's always been there, and it will always be here.
But I think a lot of times when you're given like screenshots or you're given 30 seconds of grainy video, you kind of have the expectation of like, okay, this is bigger and badder and better than anything I've ever seen before. With the generations that we're in now, where we're at the point of 4K TVs, like things are getting practically photorealistic. And within the next generation or two, it's going to be. Like the biggest difference is going to be like, how can we improve frame rate? How can we do things with, say, 3D technology?
Well, they got to get to that point first. So we're still at the point where the companies are focusing so much on 4K that they neglect the frame rate. Like, I see this argument all the time online. It's like, people always clamoring for, these companies clamor for 4K, but all the consumer really wants is a solid frame rate. Give me something that matches a PC if you're going to be touting this on your consoles.
Well, and the thing is, whenever I've talked with the game developers I have, I'm like, the PS2 could do 60 FPS. Zone of the Enders 1 and 2, 60 frames per second. Solid, no stuttering.
They were doing that 15 years ago. You mean to tell me you can't do it now with all of your technological improvements?
And I mean, part of that is the fact that we're in a console generation where, and I mean, Nintendo has tried to do this to varying degrees with 3DS, but the idea of releasing more powerful hardware that lets you basically play the same games, but frame rates higher, resolutions higher, that sort of thing. I mean, the was that the Xbox X that's coming out, and then the PS4 Pro. I mean, they're the same basic idea of,
we can give you the same thing but better.
And if that's the thing, then you need to then the consumer, if they realize this is where the market is going, they need to make that conscious decision for themselves, and developers who are working for it of, okay, what games are we going to release? Because it's new hardware and we've got to make money and all that.
And why the hell put any effort into developing a new IP when you can just re-release a beloved game just at crisper graphics or higher frame rates? They're doing that. They did it with BioShock. They're doing it with Skyrim. They're doing it with the Uncharted series.
Skyrim. Okay, sorry, you mentioned the magic word.
Oh yeah, I did.
That on the Switch. I'm sorry, guys.
I'm sorry, Nintendo. That is not a way to sell your console. Promoting a 60.
And it will, and that's what pisses me off. I am so frustrated and upset. I like Skyrim. Skyrim was overall a good game.
It's no Daggerfall or Morrowind, but it's still a good Elder Scrolls game.
Exactly. But I am so sick and tired of them releasing and re-releasing Skyrim and touting it as if it's some great announcement.
Oh, you mean the game that millions of people have finished 6 years ago? You're gonna be releasing it on your... Oh, okay. So I guess your audience, never heard of Skyrim or played it, right? Get out of here. Nobody's gonna be picking up the Switch first. Well, I shouldn't say that.
I know. That's the part that pisses me off, is you can't say that.
I would think you would get your Nintendo consoles for Nintendo intellectual properties. Your Zeldas, your Marios, your Metroids, your Star Fox, your Earthbounds, your Donkey Kongs, your Kirbys. Skyrim! Woohoo! That's going to be the system seller.
and as I said, the worst part is it will. It may not be many systems, but it's going to be enough of a financial decision, and it may be.
I hope the figures for that are low, to be honest. You've released it on PC. You've released it on Xbox 360 and PS3. You've released Legendary Editions for those consoles. You released a special edition for the newer consoles, PS4 and Xbox One. There's only one place left to go, right?
Hey, I'm waiting for the smartphone version. I'm waiting till tablets and phones are powerful enough. And, I mean, who knows? Maybe the Switch itself will do it. I mean, we already have phones that can do things in 1080p.
I mean, some of my shitty HTC right here could play Mortal Kombat X.
Yeah.
Sucks ass, and I never play it.
But you could if you want to.
But I could if I wanted to.
And that's the thing is, how long is it until? Because I bet you the minute they can do it on iOS and
Android.
That's going to be the next spot. I mean, they are going to bleed Skyrim dry, and I am just so upset.
Oh, I was done with it years ago.
Like I said, I
actually. Oh, no, I wasn't. I bought the vanilla version and then I had to sell it because I had to get some money for that particular time of my life, and it was awful. But then I waited and waited and waited again, and then I bought it again for PS4 because they had the new special edition coming out. I was like, oh, I didn't really finish this game. Might as well just get it on this system where I can actually record it for a future Sins video that I might do. And get it at a better frame rate.
And there's nothing wrong with people making that decision. You know, like, yes, anyone in the industry knows that re-releases are all about getting that quicker cash flow. There's nothing wrong with that in and of itself. It's when you...
It's the way you go about it.
Exactly. It's when you beat it into the ground. You know, do more stuff with online Elder Scrolls. Do more stuff. Start working toward Elder Scrolls 6. I don't care. I'm tired of seeing Skyrim.
Yep, that's the way Bethesda likes to roll. I'm honestly, like, dumbfounded that they had the nerve to show themselves at E3 with what they had to show. It was basically just DLC and a couple new games. And only one of them I'm actually looking forward to. The new Wolfenstein game, which I can test was the only good part of that conference. Like, oh, you got Fallout 4 and Doom on VR. 2 games that I've beaten already. Oh, I can just play it in VR now. Oh, VR. I go on a rant for that for hours. And how it's basically it is what I thought it was going to be. It's a failed gimmick. You mean to tell me in this digital age where we carry devices that could fit inside our pocket, basically do anything except bake us pancakes and fondle our genitals, that we're going to spend $300, $400, $700 on a Cyclops headset that's going to give us or they're going to give us brain disorders later on in life? Like, oh, I'm going to be developing dementia thanks to inexplicably placed time on my VR.
Well, and the flip side of that is that you look at stuff, and you look at the way that the industry is going.
Yep.
And I think the most frustrating thing as a consumer is you're only going to be able to build graphics up to a certain point. Eventually, there comes the what happens next.
Exactly. We're already at that point, I believe.
Yeah.
We're at the point of diminishing returns. Okay, so you upscale it to 4K or 8K, runs at 60, 120 frames per second. Now what? You've already maxed out your presentation quality. What are you going to do with the actual games with it?
And that's the thing that a lot of these companies within the next 5 to 10 years...
They're going to come to that grim realization, man.
Well, and there are certain companies that are going to do just fine. Cough Nintendo, because let's face it, no matter how many times they repackage their stuff, people are going to buy it. They've been doing it ever since, Mario All-Stars on the SNES, and people bought stuff like that in spades. At least they bothered to make improvements on it.
Exactly. I was just going to say that. At least with Mario, as much as he is pretty much the icon, the staple of gaming. at least Nintendo makes an attempt to reinvent him in some way with each Super entry. You know, Super Mario 64, first 3D Mario game. Are you kidding me?
A lot.
Open world.
Yeah, the idea of 3D gaming in general coming to consoles was brand new and innovative, and people may have loved it or hated it, but it shaped the industry.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is when graphics can be as good as they get, when you get to the point of photorealism, what do you do next? I mean,
you have to create compelling, original stories to match with it. Well, that's basically all you can do.
And I don't know if stories is quite the right word. I know you and I play a story, but I think you need to create an engaging experience. The people that want that open world stuff, like, you're going to need to cram in more open world stuff. You're going to be using people with, say, fewer overall, like, digital artists, because, again, like, a lot of those practices are going to become a bit more routine, and so people will be going through that faster. And instead focusing more on environment, sound. The other senses that, they're important, but they are not being pushed in the same way. Like, how many games take advantage of 7.1 surround? A lot of them take advantage of 5.1, particularly shooters. The very few that don't, a lot of the indie games, they at least take advantage of stereo or 2.1. But, people that actually take advantage of the full range of audio that you could, if you had the right system for it, yes, it's a tiny fraction, but there's also a relatively small fraction that have 4K TVs. And yet look at all the pumping and hype behind, 4K content on the Pro and the current Xbox. You're gonna have to push yourself, and story is another way that they're gonna do it. Like, you're gonna have to eventually say, okay, even stuff that has been a traditionally multiplayer experience, stuff like, and it's almost the opposite of what had happened years ago. Call of Duty and a number of other games that are shooters, like, they had an engaging story. Half-Life's kind of that way. They have an engaging story, they have characters, they have stuff going on, and they may not be the best told of experiences, and they're certainly not RPGs by any stretch of the imagination, but at least you have, like, a beginning, a middle, and an end. And the journey itself was at least somewhat interesting for whatever reason. Because you could break sequence, because you could, the characters were memorable. Hell, Portal is all about that. It's all about the outside character interactions, and Portal 2 especially, adding people besides just GLaDOS and creating even this, just this couple of way dichotomy of how everyone interacts with one another is compelling. With pushing storytelling to its limit, it's what happens when we can have this many characters on the screen? Do we use that? Do we scale back, say, the number of characters and make each of them different or unique or what have you? Hell, I know it's practically a dead franchise, but Suikoden growing up, 108 characters.
Oh God,
if you manage to do everything right. Could you imagine seeing all of them? Even if it was just a simple, 30-second video of them just assembling for some dumb group picture or something. Or just something completely campy and tongue-in-cheek and having no real relevance in the gameplay at all. You could even be at the end title sequence, just to show, how many characters you had, maybe the number in, the lower corner or something. But could you imagine all of that, rendered and moving and everyone kind of scrambling to do their own thing? And it's the kind of video that you would watch multiple times because there's so much going on, you just can't comprehend everything the first time around. So you watch it again and again, and you watch maybe your favorite characters or see something you didn't see before, because that'd be something interesting and again maybe a little silly for an example, but it's something that you could do on this hardware that you could not in consoles past. Again, like Zone of the Enders,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who I would have to kill, but I would probably become a professional assassin if I legitimately got a Zone of the Enders 3 that played anywhere close to those first two.
It's sort of like the technology that they're testing out with the new Sony game, Days Gone. One of the core features that they're touting is how many zombies they can have on screen to for you to direct into a certain path or go fight a certain enemy and whatnot. They showed the demo of it at the E3. I'm like, okay, so this is the new concept that you're pitching to us. You pretty much have the tone of The Last of Us. You have the gameplay of Uncharted. What exactly are you bringing new to the table? So you can generate dozens of zombies on screen for your viewing pleasure. Okay.
Well, and for people that like those games, as we pointed out before, you can scratch that itch. It's okay.
Yeah.
I'll
check it out.
Yeah,
it's interesting enough.
Yeah, I'll probably pick it up or mail it to someone that does and check it out for a weekend. It's probably not my thing because the other ones I also played in a weekend.
Granted, I have kind of lost interest in it, but I'm still tad bit intrigued.
Yeah.
At the very least, it's something that it's something I might wait for a discount, but
exactly.
It's not a day one purchase for me at all by any means. I'll check it out. The only thing the only problem I have, especially with Sony games these days, and I mentioned this in my Sins video in E3, is how a lot of their IPs sort of have the same tone to it. You know how Uncharted, the new one, sort of has that grim atmosphere to it. Like, oh, I'm an older Nathan Drake. I have family issues that I need to take care of. I'm not the spunky adventurer that I once was. Because the first three Uncharted games had that sort of lighthearted, swashbuckling tone to them, and now you're sort of grounded in reality with the newer ones, and the new God of War game that I'm just like, really? Why? Like, I understand there's a certain point that you come to where it's like, okay, how many gods have I killed? How much longer can I be enraged? There comes a point where you have to relax a little. But I'm like, that's not the Kratos that I know, though. You're third-person, walkie-talkie simulators. What you are, not really that interested in that. But it kind of reminds me of the gameplay. Kind of reminded me of Rise: Son of Rome. You got spectacular visuals, but you have no. Doesn't have any depth to it. Just whatever.
And like I said, there's some people that are just fine with the idea of mindless killing with the occasional dialogue interruption.
Mm-hmm.
But those are also the same people that skip all the cutscenes in Final Fantasy XIV. I just shake my head and go, why? I mean,
there is story to be heard here.
I mean, if you're gonna go do that, I feel that there are other games in the genre that are better suited for that. Guild Wars 2, who cares about the story? World of Warcraft, there's a lot of reading to get into the story.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of the yes, there's cutscenes and yes, there's things that happen, but it's also narrative light by comparison.
Mm-hmm.
And then to flip to the other side that does have a bit more narrative, Star Wars: The Old Republic. That's a game that honestly I waited till it went free to play because I liked Star Wars, but it's never.
It was basically World of Warcraft with the Star Wars skin,
and that's fine.
There's
nothing wrong with that. But I didn't get into it until it was free to play. I played through the story and said, you know what, I really enjoyed that. I went back and played it a second time just to see what some of the differences would be. And I said, I threw some money at the cash shop and, got a few things to make my job easier and skip a few of the more tedious things. And I said, I spent money. I got my money's worth. Cool. I uninstalled it, and I haven't had the particular interest in reinstalling it. And there's there's places for different types of players in this industry. Like gaming is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and it's cool that there's things that we like that other people don't. But what frustrates me is when I look at this industry and I say, okay, one of the things that made me start a gaming company in the first place and really focus on bringing people together, bringing like that communal experience, was me looking and saying, there's this huge trend towards online, and this was around the middle of the PS3 and Xbox 360 era. So like, this is the point where a lot of companies were making the conscious decision to cut out local multiplayer because they were pushing like their online services. They wanted people to be on PSN. They wanted people to be pushing Xbox Live because that's where they're making their money and getting people to connect all around the world, which is cool and fine. But I looked at it as, again, a person who's like, I just want to chill on the couch and relive that feeling of playing, Gauntlet or Smash Brothers or that kind of feeling with my friends.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, there was no games coming out from AAA publishers.
Yeah, specified.
Specifically from AAA publishers. Because at that time, there was some stuff coming out, like Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, Castle Crashers, a lot of these games that made their mark because, I think in part, the AAAs were ignoring this segment of the population that was starving for this content. And they're both great games. I certainly don't mean to talk them down, but I think the reason why they were so successful is because there wasn't an alternative. There wasn't a Final Fantasy or, Mario again is kind of that rare exception. But even then, like a lot of the stuff coming out was stuff like Mario Galaxy and things like that are still one-player centric or two-player centric. Donkey Kong, and just not that compelling if you're looking for the multiplayer experience. I think that's where this industry is going, is it's getting to this point where graphics are not going to be enough to sell games.
I believe it already past that point, to be honest. But I'm just thinking in my own little bubble.
Exactly.
There are a lot of people who enjoy party games, spectacular graphics, and that's all they really care about.
And I think there's going to be that tipping point of, a franchise that immediately comes to my mind is the Guitar Hero series.
Yeah, that went down like the Hindenburg.
Yep. Heck, with Rock Band, at least it had DLC to save it.
And Activision killed it themselves. That's the worst thing.
But the thing is, eventually it got to the point where they tried to crank out a ton of stuff in a short amount of time, and you can only sell so much to the same population. At least with, discussion of The Last of Us, we have the benefit that there is a market for it. There are people that want zombie games. And again, they don't mind the minor improvements, showing more enemies on screen, the HD remake on a new console, that sort of thing. That's what they want. There's a market for that. That's fine. It's not my market, but to each their own. But I think even for people that like the shiny stuff, even for people that are like, oh, graphics are king, it's gotta look good. It can be like an okay game. It doesn't matter. I'm just gonna kill time with this. I'm not ever gonna be invested in the game. Those people are eventually gonna get to a point where everything is shiny.
And nothing is impressive.
It's the law of diminishing returns. It's in the purest form.
And that's when that particular gamer is going to get bored and get out of the industry. Because, let's face it, we all have habits, even long-term ones, that we ultimately get rid of. Or they're going to grow. And their expectations are going to be higher and say, I mean, games look good and all, but now I want something extra. And that's going to be the thing that the gaming industry is going to have to figure out and start steering in that direction.
They need to figure it out real quick. Because we're approaching that point mighty fast, I believe.
My guess, 5 years. And I mean, because the market can be slow to react, so I'll give it a little more time, I think we're going to start seeing it in about 2 to 3. But I think 5 years is really going to be that tipping point of, because realistically that stuff is going to affect DLC sales. That's going to affect digital remasters that don't already have a remaster. As much as I like to rip on Skyrim, there is going to be a point where they can only re-release it so many times before people just aren't interested. And when that time comes, using Bethesda as an example, Elder Scrolls 6 is going to have to show up sometime. Bethesda got to eat.
Bethesda does got to eat, but I just feel like they don't have the passion to put in towards Elder Scrolls 6 at this point. I feel like you said, I feel like they're just going to milk Skyrim for as long as they can. And who knows how long that's going to be. What I'm hoping is they take a look at Skyrim's success, and then they look at how critically acclaimed games like Daggerfall and Morrowind were, and just sort of blend in what worked in those games, plus what made Skyrim more appealing to the casual fan. And then just sort of merge those two aspects together, and hopefully build possibly the best Elder Scrolls game to date.
And I mean, that's always...
It's always that trick of finding the balance of pleasing your long-term fans, your core fans who have been there from the get-go, and pleasing the new audience who just got in, with the latest century. And it's a tricky situation. I think very few games have been able to pull it off.
Well, and you and I, again, we had a discussion right before we started the show about Final Fantasy, and that's one of those things where people are very rabid in the fan base. Like, their game is their favorite. 7 was the best, 8 was the best. 7 was terrible, 8 was terrible. People are very passionate about which Final Fantasy, they plant their flag in.
Uh-huh.
And there's a lot of reasons. It's because the gameplay is very different between each installment. Yes, there are very common, similar elements, but in the same breath, they are also very different mechanically, even music-wise, despite the fact that a lot of the same composers, there's Ten or, of course, Nomura Matsu, have a hand in it. As time goes on, one of the things that has been very controversial have been installments like 12 and a lot of the 13 series.
Yeah.
Because, 12 plays very much like an MMO style, but you control the other characters with the Gambit system and what have you. And if you like that sort of thing, then it's a really great experience.
Uh-huh.
And there's a lot of interesting challenges, and you can build your character basically any way you want with the license grid. But if you're looking for that class-based, hey, I don't want everyone to do everything feeling, the ones that are more attached to games like 4, 5, 6, 9, the idea of 12 is unappealing. Like, there's nothing for you.
Uh-huh.
Especially because, as much as I love Ivalice, 12 compared to other installments is a little bit lighter on the story. As a fan, I can completely admit this is true.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, 13 is kind of the great divider of our generation because people hate that one.
Yeah, people claim to hate it. But, like I said earlier, corporations only speak one language, money. If the game is raking in money, they're going to be... They don't care what the critical acclaim is or how much people are bitching about it on YouTube.
Yeah.
If it's sold, they will invest in another installment.
Or two.
And they made two sequels after that. They made 3 editions of Final Fantasy 13. So you can't tell me that people legitimately hated that game and then didn't want to take the time to invest in another one.
And that's the thing is, you can have a certain degree of buyer's remorse, and you have a certain amount of people that are going to pay for it because it has Final Fantasy on the name.
Mm-hmm.
These are the people that, when 14 was announced, they're the ones that suffered through, 1.0 and the beginning of A Realm Reborn because, they bought it because either they were fans of Final Fantasy 11 or they were Final Fantasy fans that said, you know what, monthly subscription doesn't bother me. I want to try this game out, even if it's for just a month or a couple months. I'll throw money at it.
Mm-hmm.
These are also the same people that bought each installment of 13. Like, the first time you can have buyer's remorse and say, okay, maybe this was not a good decision. I was hoping the 13th would be better, and it wasn't. You people that bought Part 2 and Lightning Returns at full price. This message is for you.
Mm-hmm.
What were you thinking?
What the fuck were you thinking? Are you a masochist? Do you enjoy being tortured? Or did you legitimately find this story to be more interesting than possibly any other Final Fantasy games? Or was this just your first time being introduced to the Final Fantasy series? And nothing was better than this, was it? The battle system? Do you like shallow characters like Lightning?
I mean, some people probably just bought it because of the aesthetic.
It's not surprising. But hey, do what you want with your money. It's your money.
But understand that when you do this, companies are only listening to that one thing.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason why Lightning Returns exists, and that's not because 13 made money, because X2 made enough money for them to say, all right, we obviously made a good business decision. Let's crank out one more. I mean, yes, they were both in development at the same time, but if 13.2 had flopped, they would have been like, all right,
you would have seen the halt on production real quick.
Yep, they would have been like, sorry, like this is going to cost too much. We can put these assets elsewhere.
Why the hell do you think Mass Effect, or the whole Mass Effect IP is put on hold? It had nothing to do with the fact that people trashed that game, not only before release, but afterwards. Oh man, the shitstorm that surrounded that game. It had nothing to do with the fact that people ragged on the game for as much as they did. They put it on hold because it didn't sell well. That is the only reason why Mass Effect is being put on hold. I guarantee you if Andromeda has sold the numbers that they were expecting, you would have heard announcement of a sequel being in development already. But no, since it flopped, they pushed it under the rug, pretended like it never existed. Oh, what? Here we go, moving on to Anthem, BioWare's new IP. Mass Effect Andromeda. What? Never heard of that game. What are you talking about? Never existed.
And then in a few years, they're going to probably come back nice and fresh, being like, oh, hey, we're releasing another Mass Effect game.
I know EA's strategy, okay? It's the same strategy that pretty much all AAA developers these days commit. They'll release a game, or they'll hype up a game, and then they'll see if it makes the return on their investment. They'll see if it sells well. If it does sell well, they'll be announcing a sequel 3-4 months after the release that they had. If it flops, They'll push it under the rug, pretend like it never existed. They'll wait to see how long, or they'll wait to see if you forget about it, because they, like we talked about earlier, how a lot of people these days have ADHD and they have the memory span of a fly. They will bank on you forgetting about it, and then they'll come back with a new sequel to announce, and they'll hope that you have forgotten about what they did to you last time. It's what they did with Mass Effect 3. They stayed silent from all the backlash and criticism, and they banked on you forgetting about it. And then here we are announcing Mass Effect Andromeda. I'm like, wait a minute. You do realize what they did with us with Mass Effect 3, right? That game, to this day, I still have not forgiven or forgotten, or I haven't forgotten or forgiven BioWare for that. It was the whole reason why I started Gaming Sins in the first place. That one game.
It's amazing how one game can change your entire perspective on the industry.
No, see, at that time, I was already weary about the industry and its practices. How they pretty much homogenized every franchise that I had adored. Street Fighter, Dead Space, all these games, they were just following Resident Evil. They were chasing that Call of Duty money. They felt like if we eliminated certain features from our franchises that we would appeal to the Call of Duty crowd, not having any clue that Call of Duty crowd had already been claimed. You can't chase after people who have already been claimed by a different franchise. But no, these eggheads think that if we just appeal to that crowd, that they would come to our game and purchase it.
And it goes back to that same issue of there's 168 hours in the week. You know, if you have 10 hours that you're able to play games, 20 hours, when have you? You know, they're fighting for that very limited amount of time that you have to play. If you aren't playing their game, you're playing something else. So it is a competition. Mm-hmm. Because people only have so much time to play games. Nice thing about stuff like Steam sales is plenty of people will buy games that they'll never ever touch.
Guilty.
Yep, I have some too. Higher. I need to get on that game though. I loved Bastion and Transistor, so.
Oh god, Transistor.
So yeah,
such a stylish game.
I'm enjoying. Like it's sitting on my hard drive, just waiting for it.
Yep, but the problem with that is when you're all fighting for the same crowd, you inadvertently stagnate the entire industry. Now at some point in the past 10 years, game developers thought to themselves, "Oh, you know what? Well, we should just get rid of stealth games, and horror games." And what happened when Amnesia and Outlast came out? Oh, sold like hotcakes. Oh, yeah. What? People actually like this? Well, yeah. You thought to yourselves that people didn't want this you tricked yourselves into believing that people did not want this type of content. They didn't want this type of game. You decided that on your own. You didn't consult with any of the people who were interested in those games. And then you starved them for content. You made them starve. And so when you actually did release it, you're actually surprised that they actually bought it? What the hell's wrong with you? Don't starve people for content that they wish to consume. Focus groups, man. That's one of the biggest problems with focus groups. You think that a trend is the only important aspect, and you just completely forget about why people fell in love with those genres in the first place.
I think a lot of the issue as well is there's a lot of business decisions being made by people that are long-standing people in the gaming community, developers particularly, that are not business people. They're not publishers. Mm-hmm. The ones that are moving into self-publishing...
They're creative people.
And
that's all they care about.
Well, and those people are the ones that, find themselves having to compromise because they realize halfway into these projects, we're running out of money, or there's this issue that would have been taken care of for me, but now I have to deal with it. On the flip side, you have people that are either publishers or working to self-finance that are running into the fact that that's what they're good at. They're good at making sure that the numbers fit, the right people have the right things, so on and so forth. But they're making a lot of these decisions based on what's going to work on a balance sheet and not because they play video games and they have that concrete understanding of, you know what? I just played this game and it's not fun. I can't tell you why it's not fun. But I can tell you it's just random Joe Schmo who has no gaming background picked up your game and said, God, these people talk too much. Or, like, what am I supposed to do? I just keep shooting the thing? Well, how long? Why? You know, on both ends of that spectrum, you know, you want to find that nice balance because you want to have a broad player base because that's how games have a longevity. There's a reason why, you know, a lot of Let's Players not just look at a lot of the current games that are just coming out and fresh and all that, but they look at games that, oh, there are Let's Players starting Skyrim play videos now, years after it's been out. And, you know, they're going to go several hundred episodes until they get to whatever they consider done. You know, whether they actually complete the main story or whether they, you know, just go through certain side quests. Whatever their metric is. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. There are plenty of games that I never got the chance to play through.
Mm-hmm.
That, you know, I love Mega Man Legends. Funny enough, I've never played the second one. Finally, a couple weeks back, I went and I looked up a Let's Play. Found a commenter, or, you know, like a commentator with someone who just had a nice voice, very kind of mellow, so I could listen to it in the background. And every once in a while, like, they're the kind of voice that gets excited. So I would just turn and be like, oh goodness, you're making noise. You're making actual noise. And it was really cool because I got to see a game that I would have never gotten a chance to. Or, you know, like, unless I finally completed my collection and then had the time to go play it. All things that don't necessarily line up in life.
Mm-hmm.
So there's definitely a market for that sort of thing, for both sides of this to exist. The problem really comes from if you're just banking on that nostalgia. If you're not doing anything to bring new people in. You know, when I started running events, one of the biggest things that I did, so I started by running the tabletop gaming area specifically.
Mm-hmm.
And we were in this tiny little, like, 20 by 30 room. Not a very big room to play games in. But the people that would come into the room, they would walk into the room, usually they'd, like, grab a drink of water, just kill a little time. And they were like, hey, what's this? Like, what's this game? And it's just like, alright, well, you know, this is the game, this kind of the spiel about it. And if you want to give it a shot, nobody else is here. Let's sit down and play a game together.
You got the time.
You got an hour to kill? Let's go do something. You know, my name's Sage. How you doing? And, you know, before long, I started doing game demonstrations on a regular basis because, you know, I mean, there's now YouTube shows all about it. Will Wheaton's Tabletop.
Mm-hmm.
Will Flip. You know, beer and board games. All of these are built around the same idea of we are getting together with friends. We are introducing the audience to a game that they otherwise may not know about. And we're going to show them board gaming is fun and you should come do the thing with your friends. It's the idea behind this. Yeah, I am no smarter than any other person who figured out, hey, you know how I got involved in gaming? You know how often I went over to a friend's house when I was a kid? And it was like, hey, have you ever played Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle Tournament Fighter? What the hell is that?
What the hell is that? Oh.
And then it's like I got a second controller. You sit here, I sit here. I'm just gonna kick your ass till you figure out the moves, you know. And then you have a new game you play. You know, Gauntlet, Mario,
Ultima,
like so many of these games are built on that basic understanding, and that's actually one of the reasons why I got interested in Let's Plays in the first place. I was kind of late to the crowd, but I was dating someone who was a huge fan of Jesse Cox, Total Biscuit, the Yogscast, all of them, all 14 or however many channels there were at the time. There's probably even more now.
I heard the Yogscast kind of disbanded after a little incident a few years back. I'm not really sure on the details upon that, but that's the last that I've heard of them.
Yeah, and again, I have not kept tabs. For all I know, there's maybe just Simon Lewis. But the thing that's important is, this is something that I never, when it was still in its infancy, I had no interest in this. And finally, when I did start watching some of this stuff, at first with them, because, that was something that we just did together when they would come to my house and hang out. But as time went on, I started wondering, why do people do this? Why is this so interesting to them? Because I watch it because of that. But why were they interested in the first place? And somebody described it in a certain way that it all made sense to me. It was I'm the youngest of the kids in my family. So I was always the one that watched, older brothers and older sisters play the video games. I was allowed, quote unquote, to play on the systems, when they weren't.
You were permitted to, just temporarily.
Yeah, that's how that worked. So a lot of my gameplay experience wasn't me actually with the controller in hand. It was me sitting next to someone, watching over their shoulder, as they were the ones going through the motions and saying things aloud. And Let's Playing is no different. It's basically inviting someone into your office, your living room, your couch, whatever your vibe for your channel is, and sharing an experience with them. And that's something that Let's Players figured out really early and have been using, to build their images in their channel, the bigger channels. That's what streaming is getting right, because they are literally at the point where in real time they can have moderators and they can have chat people and they can have things like Discord and Skype and what have you, telling them something in their ear that their audience can't hear. They can do all of these things and have all of this just instant interaction. And that's what gaming companies are missing. They are missing the most basic, the most human element of why we play games, and more importantly, why we share the games that we play. A lot of these videos that show, play of the game, a lot of these videos that show, hey, I done, derped, come look at me make an ass of myself. Those videos become viral. Those videos become meme-worthy.
You do it all for the memes.
Because that's the human element. That's our natural curiosity work. It's what makes us us.
Yeah, there's certainly over the past few years, there's certainly been a disconnect with the human element and the business element. What can you do to maximize your profits? Well, what can we do to make people feel and connect? If there's no connection, the game is useless. It's like Reggie said in one of the Nintendo presentations. The game is fun. If it's not fun, what's the point? And I feel like companies, the executives, are just missing that point. Yeah, we're trying to maximize our profits, but we're not focusing on how to make the game fun. It's just routine. It's a factory. No thought, no reflection, no feeling, no heart, no soul. Just get it out. Make sure we reach that deadline. To hell with fine-tuning and refining it and fixing your bugs and glitches.
It can be fixed. It can be patched.
Or just writing a decent story that people can connect with. No, they sort of have the mentality that that a lot of film directors have in Hollywood. Oh, don't worry, we'll fix it in post. You can't fix story in post. It's like I go back to Aristotle and his poetics. What is the most important aspects in Aristotle's poetics? Plot, character, and thought. If there is no core, the body will disassemble. What is the least important aspect of that? Spectacle. Special effects, presentation, flash, pizzazz.
Well,
What the hell is the point of your story if you don't have plot, character, and thought? If people don't care. That's what the gaming industry is these days. It's just a spectacle. Oh, here's your 4K. Here's your 60 frames per second. None of that means anything if I can't connect.
See, and Aristotle understood a storyteller's place. He understood that the spectacle and the romance and the intrigue, that's the work of the actors.
Mhm.
That's the work of the people in positions of power at play.
Mm-hmm.
There is a place for them. It's just not a writer's place. It is not a philosopher's place. As you said, when it comes to the idea of writing to an audience, thought,
Plot.
form, and yes, there is a certain degree of function because there has to be a certain flow to the way that things are put together. He understood that that happened, but he also was smart enough to realize that his eyes were not going to be the only eyes that ever came upon his work.
Mm-hmm.
And for his work to truly last, for it to be little more than a passing spectacle, it had to make you think. It had to make you feel. It had to connect with the core that is the human experience. The games that I remember most, the ones that are in my top 40, I can say there are probably about 10. I'll be generous because I've never done the full hey, I wonder what my games would actually rank. Let's say a small fraction of them are about the spectrum. 7 I think would be one of those. Final Fantasy 7, because that's one of those that, again, I put it on that list not because I think it's the greatest game ever, but because at the time, being that teenager and just having, it was that moment of the world can do anything. Everything has changed. Everything that I know is now limited and small. It's the way that I've read about, people felt when the lunar landing happened. The way the astronauts described looking upon the Earth from space. For a young boy still filled with wonder before all this cynicism and understanding of game mechanics was even a thing. That childlike wonder was in that moment. And that's the human connection.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he understood. Like I said, there are some games, we talked about The Witcher 3 and CD Projekt Red. They are a group that I am very, very wary about pre-ordering games. But I will tell you, they put their name on something, and I have been hesitant every single time that I have bought The Witcher. But the minute that I can see Cyberpunk 2077, or if they introduce anything new, I'm going to be just here's my wallet, because they understand, yes, there's a business to it. Yes, we have to make money or we're not going to be competitive in the market. And yes, piracy is a very real, scary thing that unfortunately cuts into our bottom line and it hurts. But we also host a website that fixes up and patches old games that you can buy, for especially on sale, pennies on the dollar for older experiences or the new stuff. It's all DRM free. It's all this, and the entire idea is we treat others the way that we would want to be treated.
Exactly
We're not
right.
the enemy. We're not the enemy. We're not, out to score something big, because those people exist. But we believe that most people, when given the choice, will choose to do the right thing. That's how this industry is going to survive. Not because corporations are going to find new ways to screw their customers and squeeze the dollars out, because that's going to happen, but you're going to see a negative shift somewhere else. People only have so much money to spend.
And they only have so much patience, too.
And time. All three of these things are going to influence that. But when you think about the nostalgia, when you think about the human element, you're going to think, I could get this game on Steam, or maybe I can't. But, I like the idea of, I bought a game and maybe it's now no longer available on Steam, or I wanted to buy a game and it's no longer available on Steam. Alan Wake.
Really?
Yep.
That game disappeared?
Oh, did you not hear about the Alan Wake one?
No, I didn't hear about this.
So, actually, it's been removed from all digital stores, not just Steam, but I'll finish that point. But the idea is basically like, they will look back at things like GOG, or even the Witcher series, and say, you know what? I had a really good time with this. I'm going to keep throwing money at these guys because it's the right thing to do. And it may not be a big purchase. It may just be a game here and there. But if it's enough to pay the bills, it's good PR at its finest. Alan Wake. So that got removed, I believe, in early July, end of June. It was actually right after my birthday. But basically, in the way that the industry moves, a lot of the music that was used for the game soundtrack itself was licensed in a certain way to where, royalties paid, etc. Well, it all came up for renewal, and they were basically given the choice of, obviously pay whatever the royalties would be at this point, which, of course, if you paid any attention to the RIAA or any sort of licensing subsidiary, things have gotten a little pricey lately. I have a friend of mine who's a radio DJ, so I learned these things. Actually, just got an education about this Monday or Tuesday night while talking with them about their business. So, very timely discussion. Or, they do what Alan Wake did and said, well, does that affect our customers who have already bought the game? No. It's just future sales. And then they're like, all right, this day is the last day we can sell it. 90% off on Steam and Amazon and GOG and whatever other platforms we have it on. Get it before it's gone. Because...
Oh, that's quite the predicament.
And, that's another game that's... it's in my Steam library and I have it downloaded because I enjoy the heck out of those games. But that's another game that, some person who's just coming into their prime, 13, 14, 15, 16-year-old, and is really starting to discover, their taste in games as opposed to their parents or as opposed to their siblings or anything like that. Now that's not an option for them. Now they're going to be, unless they find some way to acquire it, and I'm sure the internet will provide, they're going to be deprived of that experience forever.
And this is precisely why I'm not for digital sales. I will always prefer physical copies over digital, if for no other reason, just that sense of ownership. If it's digital, guess what? They could pull a Konami and just take it off the digital library forever. And then, what are you going to do? Oh, you're just going to find it somewhere in the bowels of the internet and then try to download a bootleg copy? Good luck!
Well, that's assuming that it isn't hosted on some server somewhere, and then, the server shut down, and hopefully somebody homebrews something where at least most of the game works.
Oh, we could save the whole physical copy rant for a whole another time.
Oh, I'm glad to have that rant, because, one, I do buy a fair amount of digital product, but two, I'm very picky about it.
Yeah, well,
Moral of today's lesson is certainly stay humble. Do not bite the hand that feeds you. Do not ever, no matter who you are, abandon your core audience because, like every empire, if you do so, like every empire before you, you will come crashing down and you may never, ever recover. Anyway, that is it for today, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for spending this time with us. I'm Kid Atari.
This is Sage.
Thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you next time on another GCN podcast. Check you later, guys.
Bye-bye.